Good evening, good day, everybody, and welcome back to the Ask Abhijit show. I hope you're all doing great. Today, we're going to take questions about absolutely anything you want. I'll take questions primarily from the super chat. If there is more time, I'll take questions from the regular chat as well. The time duration is about 2 hours, but let's see. Maybe it will extend beyond that. I'll make sure that I take as many questions as is possible in this time period. Now, let's see who all is there on the live chat with us. Pranav561, Om Bekirikar, hello, good to see you. Amisha Mishra is here. McLevin69, good to see you as well. MAK, I am Dib Naik Shailesh is here from Pune, Maharashtra. Good evening, Ramnamji. Sky Prime Yulah Uber, okay, whatever that is. Maulana Abhijit Chavda. What on earth is, what kind of name is that? Um, uh, anyway, from Kalinga, Pranav 581, Dragon Slayer, Vansh Gada, Animish Bharatiya, Namaste. Vansh Gada is coming after a long time. Well, good to have you back, Vansh Gada ji. Bala from Vashi is here. Vikash PJ, Animals from Laugh, Animals for Laugh is here from Mumbai. Is this red a little bit too red? Maybe we can make it a little less red. Okay. Naik Shailesh is here also. Animesh Abhyuday Singh. Namaskar. Rudra Avatar. Well, thank you. Namaskar. Star Lord is here. Dhairyal is here from Jaipur. Animesh, once again. Mystic SK. Jai Shri Krishna. Ayush Singh. Good to see you. South Lucknow. UMX Glohaha. Rishabh Dang. Who else do we have? Gajapati Dev McLevin once again. Priyanka Javalia, good evening. Pranam. Real Vladimir Putin. VS, hello, hello. Borothu Uchiha. Namaste, arigato. Ankita Kachap, good evening. SHSJ is here from Alaknanda Galaxy. VS once again. And everyone else, Critical Thinker is here from Mars. Okay. Lol Manu is here from Chhattisgarh. Dragon Slayer once again, and everyone else. Okay, let's get going with some questions. Let's. Have I seen Dhurandhar? Not yet. I haven't had time to see it, but I will watch the movie. Parth Prajapati is here from Japan. Shreyas is here from Moscow. And all right. So Sahil Patil is marking attendance. Hello. McLevin is saying, have you seen Dhurandhar? I haven't seen it yet, but I do plan to see it as soon as possible at the earliest possible opportunity. Ananta Subramaniam, hello. Parthenon is here from Vashi. Omkar Shinde, Hriday Das, Sahil Patil, Brave Robot, Meow. Diva Dainik Haine Viva, hello. Okay, let's take some questions. What questions do we have? Parthenon says, can India's littering problem be solved by the fund system? What were the ambitions of the Nazis? Why inspiring Indians, my opinion? Cheating is in the culture. Okay, like three. How many questions do we have? 1, 2, 3 questions. What's a fund system? Is it something German? Is it that German self-service kind of thing? Let's quickly find out what is a fund system. PFAND sounds very German. Fund. Self-service, is it? Fund. Deposit refund system, etc. Look, the question you're asking is, what's the solution to India's littering problem? The solution to India's littering problem is not fancy technology. Technology is not the solution. Before Germany had the fund system, before they had all these technological means, they still did not have a littering problem. You can introduce as much technology as you want in India, but you will not solve the littering problem unless you solve the deeper issue, the root cause of the problem. See, in India, there's this problem, right? There's a major, massive, huge, gigantic problem in India. What is that problem? It's what nobody wants to speak about. You will have government servants with a salary of 30,000-40,000 rupees a month, 3 lakhs, 4 lakh rupees a year, who will have huge bungalows. Everyone knows that. Right? You have all these public works that happen every year in various cities in India. Every year they dig up the roads. Every year they lay a new road. In 6 months, the road is again crumbled up. Again, they will dig up the road. What is all this? It's corruption. The entire system looks like, allegedly, hypothetically, is geared towards corruption. Whatever money, huge amounts of money is allocated every year to various budgets. And where does most of the money go? If you have the situation Nothing is going to be solved. You will have, you know, you will have dustbins or trash bins which are not collected from some places. You don't even have trash bins, so people have to litter. And people, when they see that the system is working against them, when they see the system is so unfair, where people do no work but earn so much money, then people get demoralized and they stop following the rules, right? So what is the solution? The solution is a cleanup, not of the littering problem first, but of the deep defects and deficiencies in our system. Once that is solved, once you solve the corruption problem, enforcement of the rules will be done properly. Right now, there is no enforcement of the rules. No one cares. Every day these days, 6 months ago, people were talking about pigeons are a menace to India. Now, stray dogs are a menace to India. The thing is, they'll keep talking about it, but because of the incredible inefficiency of the Indian system, nothing will be done about this. The only thing that's preventing a genocide of dogs in India is the incredible inefficiency of the Indian system that doesn't care about what needs to be done. It's all about slogans and headlines and all that, and sound bites. But everyone knows what's happening. Every Indian knows what actually is happening, right? It's all about slogans. It's all about performative, little bit of actions. That's it. So that is the root cause of all the problems in India. The moment you clean up the system, the littering, and every problem in India will be dealt with an iron hand. That's the issue. All right. So yeah, Nazi ambitions, it's a big topic. We know they wanted to conquer the world. They want to avenge the humiliation of the First World War. Yeah. Why it's marrying Indians? Nothing to do with me. Okay, next. Bhaskar Bandit says Thailand versus Cambodia. Conflict due to the Shiva temple. No, it's not because of the Shiva temple, sir. Before that, Sandeep Darwar, well, becomes a YouTube member. Well, thank you so much. And welcome to the membership. And thank you so much. Okay, Bhaskar Bandit says Thailand versus Cambodia conflict due to the Shiva temple. It's not due to the Shiva temple. That is not the cause of the conflict. The Shiva temple is a symptom of what has gone wrong. The conflict is not, the temple is not the cause of the conflict. Okay, I'll explain what it is. New possible proxy war loading between communists versus freedom and democracy. What freedom? What democracy? There's no freedom, democracy anywhere in the world. It's all an illusion. Interestingly, the temple complex is situated on a 400-meter cliff. Okay, now what's the deal? Let us understand what this conflict is about. Now, I had this series called Geostrategy, in which I have spoken about this, but maybe YouTube has curtailed the reach. Maybe nobody watched it. Whatever. Let me explain again to those of you who are watching now and those of you who will watch when after this is live. See, first of all, this temple, the Priyavihar temple, it was built. The construction started more than 1,000 years ago. It was one of the Khmer kings, Surya Varman first or second or somebody. You can look up the names. It was a Khmer king who built it. And the temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva, of course. And it's an interesting temple. It's laid out in a north-south alignment instead of an east-west alignment that is typical of other temples in the region. We can even look it up, but I'll just explain. So that's what the temple is. It's a very ancient temple. It's a Khmer era temple. 1,000 years ago, it was built. Now, why is there a dispute about this? That's the real matter that we would discuss. It's obviously both nations, Thailand and Cambodia, deeply desire ownership over this temple because it's part of their ancient culture, deeply revered temple, even though nobody worships today because of the situation there. Now, in the 1860s, okay, in the 1860s, Thailand became a vassal of the French. And even Cambodia became a vassal of the French. So there was French colonization in this region. The king of Cambodia at the time was King Norodom. And so there is French colonization in the 19th century in the region, in Southeast Asia, in what they call Indochina. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, that area. Okay. Now, in the early 1900s, maybe 1906, 1907, around that time, maps are commissioned. The government of Thailand, which is under the French, it commissions, it asks the French government to do a survey in the region, a geographical survey, topographical survey, and create maps of the region. Okay. Now, at that time, the border between Thailand and Cambodia, the two kingdoms, was defined in such a way that the Priya Vihar temple was on the Thai side of the border. Okay. It was on the Thai side of the border. It was not on the Cambodian side of the border. Since the 1800s, mid 1800s, the Priya Vihar temple was on the Thai side of the border. Now, in the early 1900s, 1906, 1907, the French government made a bunch of maps, maybe 10, 11 maps of the region. And these maps were then used by the government of Thailand for various purposes, okay, officially. And out of these 10, 11 maps, one of the maps produced by the French government showed the temple on the Cambodian side of the border. And the Thai government, for whatever reason, continued using these maps. They did not protest. What is the reason for that? I'm not sure. Maybe they were scared of the French government. Maybe the French government was too powerful. Maybe France was too powerful. Thailand was a vassal. Whatever the situation was, they did not protest and they kept on using these maps in an official capacity. Now, in the Second World War, Thailand was on the side of Japan. Very bad, very naughty. Yes, if you are on the side of Japan, you're very bad, very evil. So Thailand was on the side of Japan in the Second World War. Japan lost. And in 1946 or something, there was an agreement in Washington or something, in which the Priya Vihar temple was given to Cambodia, officially on the maps. And Thailand had not protested the 1907, 1908, whatever year it was, that map, that one map. So it was said that now it's part of Cambodia because you have not protested for 40 years or 50 years or whatever. So it becomes part of Cambodia. Then in the 1960s or something, it is the Priya Vihar temple is declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Not declared, but there are some moves towards that. The World Heritage Sites started off in the 60s or 70s or something. So around that time, when this becomes a thing in the UNESCO World Heritage Site status thing, that's when the dispute flares up again. And Thailand protests. It says that this should be our territory, and that's where the issue becomes open again. And in 2008 or something, there was a big flare up. Maybe it was then that the UNESCO World Heritage status was given or whatever. But there was some protests by Thailand in the 1960s or 70s. And then there was a major escalation of the conflict, hot conflict, military conflict. In 2008, several soldiers died on both sides, etc. And then the International Court of Justice comes into the picture, and they say that this should be with Cambodia. And then the conflict simmers down, and now it is again simmered up again. Not simmered up, it's flared up again. It's gone to hot war scenario a couple of times this year. Right now, it's again hot. And Donald Trump apparently had ended that war, but it started again. Now, apparently, he's tried to end it again. Let's see how it goes. But the issue, what is the root cause? The root cause is foreign meddling in the region. And today, Thailand is the much more powerful nation, and Cambodia is militarily much weaker. But this conflict is simmering, and Thailand is not given the go-ahead to take the temple through military means, even though it was on the Thai side of the border in the 19th century, etc. So this is an artificially created conflict. It has been created by foreigners drawing lines on maps, okay, and then arbitrarily putting one thing on one side, and after a few months they put it on the other side. That's sort of nonsense. The Europeans are responsible for most of the conflicts that exist in the world. It is their legacy. Now, who is right, who's wrong? I don't know. It was a Khmer temple. The Khmers were Cambodian. Well, from today's perspective, the Khmers were based in Cambodia. Angkor Wat, where is it? Cambodia, right? Not Thailand. But it's the same culture. It's the same civilization. It's our civilization. It's our culture. So I think who should mediate? Should Donald Trump mediate? Who the hell is he to mediate? He's an outsider. I think the only nation that actually can mediate in this matter is India. That India is a secular nation. We are secular, so we will just urge the both the parties to not fight. Please don't fight. Please negotiate. Blah blah blah. India has still not reached that stature. India still doesn't have the civilizational confidence as of today to you know put itself forward and say that let me end this war for you in a proper way. So what is the resolution? Well, both sides want it. Maybe both sides should govern it. Maybe that should be the resolution. It's not an India Pakistan situation where you have two sides, that two nations, one artificial, one not, and both, one side wants to kill the other. Cambodia doesn't want to kill Thailand, and Thailand doesn't want to kill Cambodia. They just both desire this temple. Maybe there should be some kind of joint sovereignty or something, in a way that is dignified for both sides. Something like that needs to happen, because anyway it is shared culture, shared heritage, shared civilization. But there may be a geopolitical angle to this. Cambodia is more aligned with China, and Thailand has been, well, let us say, aligned with the US since the end of the Second World War. So maybe there is something to do with that. Maybe the United States wants this entire region to be destabilized, maybe to keep China on the back foot. And next to Thailand, north of Thailand, we have Burma, where there is more destabilization happening, which is spilling over into India and Manipur. So this entire region, maybe in the coming years, will be more and more destabilized because of external forces, because of major powers that want to destabilize the region for local powers. So that's what's going on in this region. Okay. Bhaskar Bandit says, Privet. Privet, how is Moscow? I'm sure the weather is cold. Ancient Bharat had better civic sense than today due to monarchy enforcement, but how did investigations happen of murder, theft, littering, etc., in the absence of today's technology? Well, we have no idea. You see, we can only comment about these matters, investigations of murder, theft, littering, whatever. We can speak about this only if we still have official documents from that time. Investigation documents, court proceedings. We have none of that. What happened to all of that? Everything was burned down. Everything was destroyed. Right? I'm talking about pre-occupation Bharat. Bharat from before 1000 AD. None of the records from those times survive. The only thing that survives are inscriptions on temple walls, inscriptions on rock inscriptions, Ashoka's inscriptions, copper plate grants that have survived somehow. But none of the paper, parchment, none of that has survived. Some birch bark records, etc. Lots actually survive in temples that were not destroyed. But those are all religious, philosophical, etc. texts. But texts related to official proceedings, government proceedings, those would have been in maybe in government buildings, etc. Those were all destroyed, and we don't have any of that. For example, we do have some court proceedings, records of court proceedings that are still available from Egypt, ancient Egypt. Those were inscribed on papyrus, on the medium called papyrus. So some of that is available. In the case of Mesopotamia, we have the world's oldest customer complaint, in which the villain was a merchant called Ea Nasser, who delivered low quality copper ore. So wherever records have survived in various parts of the world, we have some understanding, some idea of how things were done. When it comes to England, we have copious evidence of court proceedings and all that, because of which we are able to draw a very detailed. We are able to understand the history in great detail. But in case of India, everything has been destroyed. The foreigners, the Turks, they burnt all the libraries. So all of that got destroyed, and we have no idea how these things were done. But obviously, these things happen. Okay, investigations happen. Obviously, we had very high quality governance. We had very high quality administrative systems in India, whether it is the Mauryan period or the Gupta period or the Kushan period or even the Satvahana period or whatever. We had very high quality governance systems in India, very sophisticated governance. So clearly, this doesn't work High quality governance will not exist without high quality judiciary, high quality police, or records being kept, etc. But all the records are gone. So can't answer the question because none of the records exist today. They've destroyed everything. And that's something we Indians need to realize. What kind of damage has been done to our civilization? We don't have the records of the past. Everything was destroyed, everything was burned because they hated our culture and civilization. When you go to England, you can read court proceedings and official records and diplomatic correspondence from the 1600s, from the 1400s. We even have the Magna Carta from the time of William the Conqueror, the Domesday Book, the Bayeux Tapestry. We have so many things. You can actually, get a week by week, month by month understanding of history based on official documents from the Crown's records in England. We should have had the same thing for India. Imagine how much better we would understand the past, our past. But we don't have because of everything being destroyed. Oscar Bandit says, "Did you watch Dhurandhar?" I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. I need to. I definitely need to. Maybe in the next couple of days, I'll find some time and go grab a watch. So, what's my thought as you watch Bollywood rarely? I watch Bollywood rarely. I'm gonna break my decision to not watch Bollywood anymore, more just for this one movie, Dhurandhar. The level of meltdown happening in certain lobbies is entertaining. Ecosystem has never taken a hit of this magnitude before. Yeah, the meltdown that's happening is indeed very entertaining. It is very entertaining. I mean, you open X, you're gonna see that. Yeah, meltdown happening. All these critics, establishment critics, they are deeply unhappy with the movie, and they are panning it, or they're trying to pan it without being too obvious, and it's not working. And the same, and they're complaining it's too violent, it's too jingoistic. And the same people have been lauding other movies that are way more violent. And they've been lauding all these fake secular spy movies in which ISI and RAW agents work hand in hand and have romances. The same, the same critics have been doing that, but now they are panning this movie. It's such a joke. Those people are so irrelevant today. Nobody cares because this movie is doing so well. And from whatever I've heard, it's a tremendously good movie, a genuinely good movie, as per not just Bollywood standards, but maybe global standards. So that's what I hear about it, and I definitely need to go watch it. I think next day or two. The ecosystem has never taken a hit of this magnitude before. Indeed, because see, the kind of the kind of content that Bollywood produces is crap. It's trash. It's absolute trash, and they keep on peddling this mediocrity week after week, month after month. And their critics keep on doing their job. But suddenly there's this guy, uh, this new movie has come up, which is not from within their ecosystem. Okay. And it's so good. It's way better than any Bollywood movie that's come out in recent times. And the people are, it's vibrating, it's vibing with people. People are watching it. People are watching it repeatedly. So I know people who watch it like 2-3 times. It's that good apparently. So the ecosystem is crumbling now. Now Indians for the first time are seeing world-class cinema, the way a spy thriller actually should be, right? And that's why the ecosystem has taken a massive hit. And now that Indians have watched this sort of movie, they will expect something of that standard now, because now the standards have increased. So the expectations will also increase. Now another Yash Raj kind of trash movie comes out where Shah Rukh Khan is dancing around trees with some ISI agent woman and he's a raw agent. Nobody will watch that movie now, right? So great. I'm so pleased. So I need to watch this at the earliest. I can't wait to watch it. Bhaskar Bandit again says, why Benazir and Ziaul Haq were taken care of by their alleged masters? Oh, did they get powerful internally or change camps? We know the deep state does all of this, but these two people we have not discussed much. Pakistan, I don't really discuss Pakistan. See, yesterday I did another show yesterday, Ask Abhijit, right? And some people were asking me, what do you think about this person? What do you think about that person? And my answer was that I don't discuss random people like some newsreader. Okay, I don't discuss news readers and some what YouTube content creators who read out of teleprompters. I don't discuss them. I will discuss world leaders. I'll discuss Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Narendra Modi, Donald Trump. I'll discuss Elon Musk. I'll discuss people of that stature. So the same principle applies here. Who is Ziaul? Who was Ziaul Haq? Who was Benazir? What were they? They were simply puppets, sock puppets. The real power was something else. They were simply sock puppets. Somebody was puppeteering them. So that's why I don't really discuss these people, because they were not that important. But since you've asked, since these are now historical figures, so let me discuss them. Ziaul Haq, well, he got on a plane. He got on an aircraft with the US ambassador, whose name was Arnold Raffel, I think. Raffel, whatever the hell the pronunciation is. And there was some crates of mangoes on the plane. And one of those crates exploded and the plane blew up. And Ziaul Haq sadly perished, and so did the US ambassador. Sadly perished. So that's what happened to Ziaul Haq. Late 80s, yeah? And Benazir, well, she was shot by an assassin. She was at the time not the prime minister, but she was campaigning or something. So now, clearly, these were both assassinations. So if it's an assassination, someone assassinated them. Why would they have been assassinated? Assuming it's a deep state behind this, why would these people be assassinated? Well, you assassinate, if you are the deep state, you assassinate somebody if they become inconvenient. Or how can somebody become inconvenient? Maybe they become too powerful and kind of start acting on their own agenda rather than your agenda. They start becoming independent instead of being aligned with you. In that case, you eliminate such assets, such troublemaking, problematic assets. And overall, the principle is that don't allow someone to be in power too long. The longer somebody is in power, if they are good, then they will establish their networks. They will put down deep roots, and they will create genuine power structures that are independent of you. In which case, they can become a nuisance. They can become problematic. So don't allow someone to stay in power too long. Keep employ a revolving door policy. What kind of policy do the Americans employ in Japan? There's a revolving door prime ministership. Every few months, a new prime minister comes and goes. Same thing with the UK. So that way, there is no stability politically, right? But that doesn't. So Japan and the UK are technically democracies. So that's what they do. They do with democracies. When you have a dictatorship like we have in Pakistan, you have to give the dictator a slightly longer time. Maybe not just 6 months or 1 year, maybe 5-6 years. So Ziaul Haq, I think, was in power for close to a decade, which becomes too long. Right? So that's why you take care of him. And then you do a different experiment in Pakistan, have a different power structure come up, which was essentially, soon you had Benazir. And then maybe Benazir had become problematic, that sort of thing. So overall, see, Ziaul Haq was simply a sock puppet, a puppet of the US. He was powerful because the US needed him, and the US gave him that power. They made him powerful. And the same for Benazir Bhutto for a while. As long as she was relevant, she is considered to be the founder of the Taliban. Well, today the Taliban have absolutely no love for her. I can assure you of that. So there you have it. Bhaskar Bandit again. The US funded and abetted terrorism in Bharat using temporary relation Pakistan, and in 2020 put their own puppets in place. Then why destabilize the state, who acts as an asset, by allegedly giving arms to Balochistan Liberation Army, Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan, etc.? Well, see, the US funded and financed Pakistani terrorism against Bharat from the 1980s onwards. 1979 is when things changed, when the USSR invaded Afghanistan, and then in 1980s onwards, the Americans poured in tremendous amounts of funds and funneled weapons through various means, indirect means, into Pakistan, sent military, people who would train the Pakistani military in various terroristic and other activities, etc. And that's how the terrorism started in Punjab. And then later it spilled over into Kashmir by design. So the US has done that, yeah. Now, nothing changed in 2020. From 2012 to 2022, Pakistan was a Chinese asset, a Chinese vassal, because the Americans had kind of uh, temporarily given, cut Pakistan adrift. But 2022 onwards, the US took control of Pakistan all over again after the ouster of Imran Khan. Now, obviously, the BLA exists, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan exists. The question is, who is funding them? Do we know that the US is funding them? I'm not very sure about that. Yeah. So if the temporary nation is your asset, why would you want to destabilize it? Well, that's a good question. Why would you want to destabilize it? You can keep some instability going on just to keep your assets under control. You know, if the country is running completely smoothly, then your assets, the generals who work for you, they may become too smug, and they may become a little complacent, and they may feel overconfident. But you keep the nation unstable, then it is a daily reminder to your vassals, to your puppets, then you need to stay on your toes and don't take anything for granted. Don't take your masters for granted. That sort of thing. But I'm not sure who's funding the BLA, who's funding the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. Is the US doing it? Can't say. Is somebody else doing it? Is China doing it? Why would the Chinese fund the BLA? The Chinese won't fund the BLA. TTP, I'm not sure about that. The Chinese are very careful about these things, especially with issues in Xinjiang itself. Who else could fund? Well, that's an open question. So, one reason you could do this is to keep your assets, ensure that they don't become overconfident. Bhaskar Bandit says the Taliban denied the Bagram airbase to the US, yet they receive $50 to $100 million allegedly per week in cash, allegedly as a weekly stipend. Not a vassal of the US, but this is sort of protection money or de facto stabilization payments. What is it? Is the question. The question is, why is the US allegedly funding the Taliban? See, the US handed the country of Afghanistan to the Taliban on a platter. The Taliban did not win the war. The Taliban did not defeat and eject the US from Afghanistan. There was a series of negotiations that happened in Qatar between the United States and the Taliban. And that went on for a period of months, maybe years. We don't quite know. Much of it was done in secret. So maybe the negotiations were going on for a couple of years, perhaps. Eventually, there was an agreement between the US and the Taliban in Doha. And certain aspects of that agreement, the deal that was signed, certain aspects of the deal are secret. There are secret clauses to the agreement. And those have never been revealed to the public. And as a consequence of this agreement, the Americans simply withdrew from Afghanistan and handed over the nation to the Taliban. And there was essentially no resistance to the Taliban from the government, from the so-called Afghan government, which was nothing but a US sock puppet. So it looks like, as a consequence of those secret clauses in the agreement between the US and the Taliban, looks like as a consequence of that, the Americans have some kind of secret understanding with the Taliban that you Taliban will play a certain role in Afghanistan, which will be beneficial to the US. In exchange, the US will give a certain amount of payment to the Taliban per week, every week, whatever the amount is, so that the Taliban can continue to run the country and in a reasonably successful manner. Now, what role could the Taliban play that is beneficial to the US? Well, in case you're not aware, the Chinese are interested in Afghanistan. The Chinese wanted to use Afghanistan territory to build infrastructure for their Belt and Road Initiative. And that's never happened. The Chinese were very interested in copper deposits in the Mes-Ainak region in Afghanistan. That's never happened. The Taliban are keeping China out of Afghanistan. And there must be something else also. So that's the kind of service maybe the Taliban is providing to the US, a geopolitical service in exchange for the money. But Obviously, the agreement is such that the Taliban remains sovereign, Afghanistan remains sovereign. It is dependent on the money that comes in from the US, but it's not a tremendous amount of money. 100 million, let's say it's 100 million per week, that's $400 million a month. 10 months, it's 4 billion. So it's about $5 billion a year, which is peanuts for the US, but it's significant for the Taliban. Um, Many nations can actually fill that gap. So it's not like the US is indispensable for the Taliban and so on. But yeah, that's the kind of situation that we have in Afghanistan. Ritik Pawar says the US is 10 times more powerful than India. So we don't make any moves against the United States. But Pakistan, knowing that India is 10 times more powerful than Pakistan, still makes moves against us. Why is that? If you look one layer below the surface, you will see Pakistan is backed up by the US. Do you understand that Pakistan is backed by the US? And if Pakistan is backed by the US, then it's like India against the US, right? That's why Pakistan makes moves against us, because they know they have the backing of the big power. And also they have the confidence that comes from apparently, allegedly, not allegedly, being a nuclear weapon state. So they think that, we have that red line that nobody can cross, even India can cross. And if things go badly for Pakistan in case of a war with India, at the end of the day, we still have the nuclear option. So these are the reasons why Pakistan makes moves against us. And the Pakistani military, its raison d'etre is enmity with India. The Pakistani military has legitimacy in the eyes of the Pakistani Awam, the people of Pakistan, only if India is positioned as an enemy. If there is long lasting peace between India and Pakistan, then the people will start asking questions about the Pakistani military. Why do you people exist? India is not a threat. So why is the Pakistani military ruling Pakistan? Why is your top general the dictator of Pakistan? Why do you eat up so much of our nation's budget? Why are the roads so poor? Why are all these problems? Why do all these problems exist in Pakistan? Why are people not solving our problems? But if India is positioned as a big threat all the time, then people will ignore all the problems and worry about India. So that's why the Pakistanis keep making all kinds of moves against India, cross-border terrorism, infiltration of attempts to infiltrate terrorists into India, whatever happened in Pahalgam, all those things. They keep on doing it from time to time. But of course, in the past 10, 11 years, things have been very different. Things have been significantly different because every time Pakistan has tried something, India has hit back harder each time. Right? So first you had the surgical strikes. Then you had, which was what, 2016 or whatever, 2016, 2017. Then you had Balakot, which was airstrikes in Pakistan. The third time you had Operation Sindoor, which was almost a full-scale war. It was an air war, essentially, for 3 days. So that's why it's getting harder and harder for Pakistan to do these things. But they still keep on doing it because they're backed up by the US. Okay, Bhaskar Bandit says, most beautiful, serene places you've visited in Bharat. Look, I haven't traveled that much in Bharat, actually. I would love to, if I get the time, to visit every part of Bharat, but I haven't done that very much. What are the nicest parts of Bharat? We have great beaches. I don't know, the last beach I visited was the beach at Somnath. That's not quite a tourist destination. It's not very, very well maintained. I'm sure it can be done better. The nicest place I've visited is probably Ladakh. Very beautiful. Love the climate, love the temperature, love the altitude. Most people can't take the altitude. I love it. Even Manipur is beautiful, but today you can't really, we have messed it up. So I haven't traveled that much in Bharat. The nicest place I've been to, because I like the cold, it's Ladakh. Yeah, that's what I can tell you. Bhaskar Bandit again says, Dios Pitru, Zeus Pater, not Peter Pater, Jupiter. What is a Django? What is a Django? Jago. Oh, Django. It's DJANGO. So that's, I think you watched yesterday's live stream. Django Reinhardt, the guitarist. Yeah, Jago. Khorasan Swarakshetra. Please tell us more examples, and also, if possible, it would be great to have a separate video about this on the channel. Okay, so these are actually very different examples. Dyosh Pitru is the oldest of the Vedic gods that we know of, or maybe he's a pre-Vedic god. Dyoshpitru is something like the father of Indra. Indra is the greatest and most powerful of the gods in the Vedic pantheon, but his father is Dyoshpitru. And Dyoshpitru was incorporated in every Western pantheon of gods as the sky father. So Dyoshpitru became Zeus Pater. Clearly, Zeus Pater is derived, the name Zeus Pater is derived from Dyoshpitru. But Zeus Pater, the Greek god, has the attributes of Indra. So they have kind of combined the father and son divinities into one, but given it the name of the father in Greece. So Dyoshpitru becomes Zeus Pater in Greece, but Zeus Pater is a thunder god. Indra is a thunder god. Zeus Pater also, I don't know if in Sanskrit, I mean, in when it comes to Indra, his primary weapon or his weapon is Vajra. But Vajra has two meanings. Vajra means the thunderbolt. It also means a hammer, a mace, a gada kind of instrument made from human ribs. But in later European versions, it becomes a hammer, like the hammer that Thor has. Thor is nothing but the Nordic version of Indra. He has two weapons. One is the thunderbolt, the other is the hammer. But if you combine the two, it is Vajra. So yeah, so from Dyoshpitru in Indra, we had Zeus Pater. Zeus Pater became Jupiter. Jupiter also has the same attributes. He also kills a great sea monster. And then you have Thor. Django Reinhardt, his name was Jago actually. As a kid, I suppose his parents called him Jago because he would sleep a lot or something. Khorasan, well, it was Swarasthan. Swara means sun. Also, it means gold. So Swarasthan became Khorasan. And Swarasthan was the region that was Gandhar plus. Gandhar and parts of the western regions beyond Gandhar altogether. All of that was then later called Khorasan. More examples. What more examples can I think of? Not sure. I'll have to think about something. I'm sure there are lots of other examples like this. Yeah, okay. I'll give you one more example. In Persia, there is this very pretty common Iranian or Persian name, which is Khurshid. Look, let's go here. Okay, Khurshid or Khurshid. Okay, so it's a Persian name which means sun or radiant sun. Okay, it's not an Islamic name, it's a Persian name. What's the origin of Khurshid? Okay, so we know Lord Yama, right? Yamaraj, the god who's the final person you meet in your lifetime, right? And it's the god who takes you over to the afterlife once you are done with this life, right? Yamaraj. So according to mythology, let's say, Lord Yama was the son of Lord Surya. He's the son of the sun. So that's why Yam was very bright and shining, apparently. So his father was Surya Dev, Lord Surya, the sun himself. So one of the words for the sun in Sanskrit is swar, which also means golden. So swara means the sun, it also means golden. And one of the epithets for Lord Surya was Swarakshetra. Swara means sun, Kshetra means shining or radiant. So it was called Swarakshetra. Well, later the Persians could not say Sa. So they called him Hwarakshetra, which became Horshed, which became Khurshid, which became Khurshid. So Khurshid or Khurshid means the sun or shining sun, which comes from Swarakshetra. There are so many examples like these, So maybe I can make a separate video about that. Parthenon says, I love geopolitics. I want to work in a PE, hedge fund, AMC, but I'm stuck in useless SYBCom. Having a career in India is painful. What should I do? Well, what you can do is leave the country and go and work in one of these funds that you like, or one of these, uh, in whatever field you like, in a hedge fund, AMC, etc. How to leave India, how to do all that? Well, you have to find a way. I cannot tell you how to do it because I don't know your circumstances and your situation. But where there is a will, there's a way. There is something called agency. A person who is low agency is a person who is not able to achieve what they want in life. They can't find a way. They get stuck. A person who is high agency is a person who will find a way no matter what happens. Just find a way. Make it happen. Don't take no for an answer. You knock on this door, you get a no. You don't take no for an answer. Go somewhere else, knock on another door, or ask to speak to somebody else. Find a way to achieve what you want to achieve. Find a way to get where you want to get. So that's one thing you can do. Maybe go abroad and then work in a firm that resonates with you. But you do have to get a degree for that, right? You are in SYBCom. I know that the syllabus, everything is trash. It's useless. It's just a waste of time for young people. But at the end of the day, you have to get a degree, I suppose. Otherwise, or what you could do, you can start your own business. But you have to find a way to do that. You love geopolitics. Maybe geopolitics is your passion, but it's not going to make you money. Geopolitics is not a business, right? Geopolitics is the understanding of the world. Maybe you can, if you have a deep understanding of geopolitics, maybe you can become a consultant, a geopolitical consultant. Maybe you can, be a consultant for businesses which are risk exposed because of geopolitical events. So there's so much you can do if you are creative, if you have the right amount of skills, if you have the skills, the insights at a deep enough level, you can do that. Or if you want to work in a hedge fund, etc., then you get your degree and get the hell wherever you need to be. That's what you do. At the end of the day, you remember that your passion will not make you money. Your skills will make you money. And your skills may not be exactly where your passion is. They may not be aligned. See, your passion is something you can do in your spare time. Maybe you love playing the guitar. But playing the guitar, there's a gazillion guitarists out there. Only a small handful, maybe 0.01% will make big money. The rest of guitarists, they barely survive day-to-day basis. So if you have a great passion for the guitar, well, play a couple of hours every week. Maybe play half an hour every day. Just do it for your relaxation or whatever. But when it comes to making money, you have to make money. You have to have a career, a livelihood. Well, you have to develop skills which are aligned with what the world needs. Maybe the world doesn't need more guitarists. I don't know, right? I'm just saying. I love the guitar. I haven't played in a long time. I have a bunch of guitars hanging on the wall. They're gathering dust, unfortunately. I would love to play them every day, but I don't have the time right now. It's one of my passions. I love it. I used to be pretty good at that. I don't know how good I am right now. I'm sure I play a couple of hours every day for a couple of months. I'll be back at the same level, maybe higher, but I don't have the time. See, it's one of my passions. I have a lot of passions, but you can't indulge in every passion. You have to follow certain avenues, and there's only a few things you can do in life. All right, sir, all the best. Geopolitical Dubai, thank you very much. Where is it? Geopolitical Dubai, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, sir. Always good to see you. Tanmay Deshpande says, how will you counter people who say idol worship does not exist in Hinduism because a very specific religion who hates idol worship is trying to prove it does not exist by misquoting our scriptures? I don't want to counter anybody. It's not my business to go fighting with everybody. Right? There are plenty of people whose whole livelihood is about countering and fighting and all. I am not going to do that. Idol worship does not exist in Hinduism. Well, look around. Look around. Does it not exist? I mean, you have to be either blind or mentally impaired to say that idol worship, Murti Puja doesn't exist in Hinduism. Come on. So anyway, I'm not getting into this fight. It's not my fight. I can't fight every fight. All right? I can only do a few things in life. I will stick to those things. So the only thing I would say is, you are either completely blind or you are mentally impaired if you think that Murti Puja doesn't exist in Hinduism. Yeah, that's all I'll say. Okay, VSVS says Namaste. Well, Namaste ji. Namaste. WBR says some in India believe that a large amount of trade. Some in India believe that the large amount of trade between India and China acts as a deterrent to prevent war between the two nations. Is this a delusion? Look, okay, let's Google this. What's the uh, annual trade between India and China? Annual trade between India and China in billion USD. So 2024-25, 127.7 billion. Okay, so what's the trade deficit like? So the Chinese enjoy a huge trade surplus. Okay, so in 2024-25, it's roughly $100 billion. So if there is a trade of 127 billion between the two countries, China, if you China essentially has a surplus of $100 billion. So India is essentially funding China in a way. India is importing finished products and goods from China, like electronics, machinery, plastic, pharmaceuticals, and India is mainly exporting raw materials. So this is a failure of India's manufacturing ambitions. We are not manufacturing; we are exporting raw materials. African countries export raw materials, and China is exporting finished products and goods to India. So, is this 127, 128 billion dollars of trade between the two countries? Is it a deterrent? Does it serve as a deterrent which prevents war between India and China? I don't think so. I'll tell you why. So there is something in India that China wants. China wants Indian territory. More than that, China is worried about India. India is the only nation in Eurasia that can stand up to China. And if India gets stronger and stronger, slowly every year for the next 20 years, India will be able to genuinely stand up to China, even pose a potentially threat to China. And China doesn't want India to reach there. So how do you prevent India from reaching there? Well, what is it that is ensuring that India keeps growing? It is India's government, the Narendra Modi government, that has changed things for India. And that's why India is becoming more and more confident every year. And India is genuinely growing. You can see the graphs. So the way to prevent India from becoming a threat to China is to effect a regime change in India. Now, it's not easy to do that. Now, but you can do it using India's own system, which is democracy. Democracy is a weak, flawed system. And Indian democracy is especially weak. India is always one election away from disaster. Okay? So how do you derail India's growth trajectory? You do it by effecting a regime change in India, which is essentially by ensuring that the current government loses the next election. How do you do it? By making people lose confidence in this government. How can you do it? By defeating India in a short, sharp war. Right? And China claims Indian territory, Arunachal Pradesh and whatnot. And it will be easier for China to go to war with India rather than go to war with Taiwan. Because if India and China go to war, if China goes to war with India, nobody's going to come and stand for India. But if China goes to war over Taiwan, the US will fight China, Japan will fight China, even South Korea will be pressed into the war by the Americans. So it makes more sense for China to fight India. So in the future, I think it is more likely that China will initiate a war with India before it initiates a war over Taiwan. So this is what China is doing right now. It doesn't like India. It wants to ideally break up India. It wants to effect a regime change in India. India has something that China wants, which is Arunachal Pradesh, another territory. So China is saying right now, we'll wait right now. Maybe this is not the right time for war. Maybe in a year, maybe in a couple of years. In the meanwhile, let's have India fund our military growth. So let us have a massive trade surplus with India. Every year we earn $100 billion from India and we dump it into our military expenditure. So India is funding our military growth. That's what this trade surplus that in China has over India, that's the function it serves. So this big trade between India and China, this large amount of trade, it doesn't serve as a deterrent. It serves as something that funds China's military buildup north of the India-Tibet border. China is using India's money to build up its military strength and power north of the undemarcated India-Tibet border. That's what's happening. So this trade surplus, it does not act as a deterrent. It acts as something that strengthens China. Okay. Okay. WBR says, oh, I see that you have changed your name. You no longer have the Russian name. Okay. Your opinion on Free Nations of Post Russia Forum. Free Nations of Post Russia Forum. Which forum is this? A forum. I'm not quite sure what you're asking here, sir. Free nations. Were they unfree nations? Are you talking about the nations that came out of the USSR? I'm not sure what you're asking, sir. I'm so sorry. But if you could formulate the question better, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what you're asking. Sorry. VSVS says, question by Ruhan Sehgal from Ask Abhijit 311. What's your take on the third interstellar object 3I Atlas? The, you know, there have been a gazillion YouTube videos about 3I Atlas. In every 2-3 days, they are saying that, you know what, 3I Atlas is an interstellar object that has come from outer space, which is not natural in origin. It's an artificial object. Maybe it is a interstellar spacecraft. Maybe there are aliens in there. Maybe it is showing signs of maybe it is showing signs of acceleration that is not natural, as in maybe it's accelerating or decelerating. Maybe it is showing signs of propulsion. Maybe it is showing signs of you know it being an alien object and so on. Well, you see, and they have been claiming, people have been claiming that NASA, etc., are hiding what's happening. They are not giving us the correct data. Well, my point is, look, from where I am sitting, I don't have a massive telescope that I operate. I don't have my own data. I can only rely data on data that is publicly available. The data that's publicly available from the NASA and other space agencies doesn't show anything out of the ordinary when it comes to 3I Atlas. Okay, uh, people have been saying that 3I Atlas is going to go around the sun and then return to Earth. Well, has that happened? So now the 3I Atlas is simply going. It's got around the sun. It's going its own way now. It will be on its way out of the solar system. Now all this frenzy, the YouTube views frenzy, is dying down now slowly. So my point is, in the absence of any data that shows anything extraordinary, I would just say it's another interstellar object. And now that we have so many telescopes out there, we're going to find more of these. So that's all I can say. As a scientist, you have to be skeptical, super skeptical. Don't ever rush to weird conclusions. I think even Avi Loeb was saying that this is an an artificial object. Well, I haven't seen any signs of that. Yeah, whatever evidence we have, it doesn't show any signs of that. So that's all I can say. Nano Mountain says, how do you handle setbacks and failures? How to be optimistic about future goals, even if it looks impossible now? And it takes tips on handling negativity. How do you handle setbacks and failures? Uh, you have to be delusional. You have to have delusional self belief. So no matter what happens, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to achieve it. Now, first of all, it's like this. Look, if you have a goal that makes no sense and you keep working towards it, you're going to go in the wrong direction in life. So, first of all, you need to have a goal that makes sense. And what kind of goal? I mean, what size of goal are we talking about? You need to have a goal that's achievable only in 10, 20 years. Assuming you're a young person, if you are 55 when you have a 30-year goal, I mean, be a little reasonable. Let's say you're 25 or 30 or something. Then you should have a goal that is very hard to achieve in 10, 20 years. Let's say you need to have a goal, give yourself a 10-year target. And that target should be almost impossible to achieve in 10 years, but not completely impossible. Uh, it should be such that there is nothing in the laws of physics that prevents it from being achieved. And then you work as hard as possible towards in that direction. And you just don't work towards a 10-year goal. You need to break it down into a 5-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 1-year goal, and then quarterly targets, that sort of thing. That's what I do. And then when you're going towards the quarterly target, sometimes you may miss a quarter. You may have a failure. So in that case, you keep going. You work more, you work harder, or you work smarter. And you should always have plan B, plan C. In case one goal doesn't work out, maybe then you create a new goal. The point is, you need to first of all give yourself the highest chance of success by cutting out all the clutter, cut out all the stuff, by cutting out all the stuff that wastes your time, by cutting out all the distractions. So give yourself the best chance of success. Be healthy, be strong, have the right habits, uh, ensure that your energy is high. What's the best way of ensuring your energy remains high? The right kind of diet, and staying away from the wrong kinds of things like alcohol, tobacco, all that stuff, and whatever else you may. So that's what you do. But even then, you may encounter setbacks and failures, because see, there are two issues with goals. One is there's a number of parameters that's beyond your control. Let's say your objective is, let's say that I want to. There's a lot of people who go for UPSC, right? So I want to clear the UPSC exam and get into the government service. Now, is that entirely in your hands? You may study the hardest, but at the end of the day, somebody else will examine your papers and take your interviews and all, and those people may have their own biases. So for it is possible that for no fault of your own, for somebody else's fault, you may not get through. So then what do you do? So then you need to have plan B. You don't waste 7-8 years doing UPSC, right? You give it maybe 1 or 2 attempts, then you move on to something else. So that's what you do. Always be positive, always have this delusional self-belief. Even it has to be, you have to take it to delusional levels, that no matter what happens, I believe in myself, right? I may have failed at this, I may have failed at that. And always be honest with yourself, right? Don't blame it on others. So that's what you do. And it's often difficult. Yeah. And what I can tell you is no successful person has had straight sailing. The more successful a person is, the more times they have failed. A person who is super successful has failed so many times you can't believe it, you can't imagine. And if you show me a person who has never failed, I'll show you a person who has never achieved anything. So the more you achieve, the more you're gonna have failed. It's like that. So you need to have this high threshold for pain if you want to be an achiever. Yeah, you have to be able to take setbacks and move on nevertheless. So that's what you do. WBR says, is the greatest asset of the US is geography? Well, it's one of its great assets, right? It's protected on two sides by oceans, the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And that's one asset. The other asset is its gigantic geography, right? It's gigantic. It's a continent-sized empire. The other thing is that they have ensured that all other nations in the Western Hemisphere are under their control, right? Especially in the Americas. There's only one or two little nations that the Americans still haven't completely controlled. One is Cuba to some extent, another is Venezuela. Everybody else is completely aligned with the US, and they will never do a thing that goes against US interests. So they have worked on this really, 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 really hard the past couple of centuries, right? So it's not just the geography, it's also the fact that they have worked very hard on it. But yeah, maybe the greatest asset overall is the geography. If you take just a snapshot of the US today, take a look at the map, then yeah, the way things are today, it's incredible. But they've worked very hard to make it happen the way it is right now. Because initially the US was just a reasonably small nation compared to what it is today on the east coast of the continent. And then they went westwards, expanded westwards relentlessly until they reached the Pacific. So they worked really hard to do that. Obviously, they had to genocide everybody who stood in their way, and the natives, reduce them. They have been fighting the natives for almost 500 years, exterminating the natives for roughly 500 years. Yeah, right. Okay. James says, no Hindu who has received English education ever remains sincerely attached to his religion. It is my firm belief that if our plans of education are followed up, we will have zero idle believers. Lord Macaulay. Lord Macaulay was a visionary and an incredibly successful person whose vision was indeed carried out, was executed by the British overlords, but the British occupiers of India. There, and his vision is still being executed today. Lord Macaulay's vision. You know, in India, if you want to succeed in anything, you have to speak good English. You have It is indispensable to have an English language education if you want to have a job in a good company and at a high position. If you want to have a good job anywhere, you need to be able to speak good English. You need to be able to give your interview in English. You need to be able to write very well in English, and so on. So India has been more and more Macaulayized, colonized, deracinated, etc. generation, each succeeding generation. And the government of India today is still hell bent on making Lord Macaulay's dream come completely true. That's what the government of India is doing right now through its educational policies. So yes, Macaulay came up with this incredibly powerful plan to totally enslave India mentally, and it's worked. India is super mentally colonized today. So thank you for drawing our attention to this important fact, James. And today, a lot of Indians, it's quite fashionable to to abuse Lord Macaulay. I would say you should learn from Lord Macaulay. See, Macaulay was not serving India; he was serving his people. And if you think what he did was evil, well, so be it. It is what it is. See, in geopolitics, there's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. Geopolitics is amoral. The objective in geopolitics is to achieve whatever is best for your nation. Now, the UK was an imperial system. This was an empire, the British Empire. And what was good for England, for the British Empire? The complete domination over India is what they sought to achieve. That was beneficial for the US, for the UK. And that's why Macaulay came up with this plan. And the plan was implemented. The point is, now that Macaulay is dead, now that India is technically free from the British, why is the government of India still implementing, executing, and still using the Macaulayan system? That's my question. Macaulay did whatever was good for his country. But it's bad for our country. The question is, why is our government not dismantling the Macaulayan structure? That's the big question. That's the big question. And that's very, very, very concerning, very problematic, and one wonders what's going on. Yeah. So anyway, James, thank you for raising this point. Very important point. Okay, VS says James is Kanglu Mia from Superpower Bangladesh. I don't think James is a Kanglu Mia. I don't think so. I think James is on our side, and I really appreciate James. He always raises these really important points. You may not like the way he raises these points, but I appreciate what he's doing. Thank you, sir, James. UMX Gluhaha says Ronaldo looks brown. Why is called the white person? I don't call him a white person. You mean Cristiano Ronaldo? He's brown. Cristiano Ronaldo is not white. A lot of Spanish people are not white, really. Okay. Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, how can you call this gentleman white? He's not white. He's a brown person. I would say the same applies to Rafael Nadal. Okay. Rafa Nadal. I mean, look at this guy, Rafael Nadal. He's not white. This is not a white person. He has the same skin color as me, essentially. And the same applies to Cristiano Ronaldo. So a lot of people, is Cristiano Ronaldo Romani? Is he Romani? Is he Romani? He's Portuguese, we know that. But he's not typically identified as Romani. Ricardo Quaresma, we know, is Romani. And Quaresma has the same skin color as Ronaldo. The thing is this, I spoke about the Romani people yesterday after a while. So there's a lot of people of Romani ancestry in Europe. A lot of people have Romani ancestry. But they are really afraid to disclose the fact that they have Romani ancestry, because then they will be subject to horrible discrimination. There's a lot of people especially in Iberia, which is Spain and Portugal. Okay. So there's a lot of people like that. So it's possible maybe Cristiano Ronaldo may have Romani ancestry, but maybe he's never disclosed that. Yeah. Maybe Rafael Nadal also, possibly. Who knows? We don't know. I'm saying. And anyway, the people of Spain, Portugal, and Italy, they are much darker skinned than the people of, let's say, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. Right? I would not consider the people of Spain, Italy, even Greece to be white in the sense, in the same sense as the Nordic people. I would not consider them to be white. The Romans, well, the Romans did not consider white people their equals. You know that they considered white people inferior. The Romans. Anyhow, so that's the deal. So Ronaldo does look brown because he is brown. He is not a white person, in my opinion. And that's okay. What's the big deal? Why do you have to be white? Just because you're European doesn't mean you have to be white. Okay. Nimish Bharati says, thank you for the live chat, sir. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your viewership. Thank you so much for your encouragement. I appreciate it very much. Sagar Ghare says, World War One book recommendations, please. Well, I have done so many book recommendations. I need to put out some videos, some videos, video clips. I need to make some video clips about that. Now, when it comes to World War One, I would say there's a book called The War That Ended Peace. The War That Ended Peace. By Margaret Macmillan, is it? The War That Ended Peace. Book by Margaret Macmillan. And this book is about, well, essentially how the First World War happened. The road to 1914. So what happened in the months that preceded this war? Yeah. So this is a great book. Yeah. And you will see, I'm sure, good reviews of it on Amazon. The Guns of August is another great book. Yes, Barbara Tuchman. The Guns of August is another fantastic book. So, and I'll tell you what, these are great books, but they're pretty hard to read. You need to expend a lot of mental energy to read these books. But yeah, these two books, I would say, The Guns of August and The War That Ended Peace. These two, start with these two books. Rajat says, Pranam Gen Z leader. Okay. Did you get a chance to look at the CMB dipole and its alignment with Earth's equinoxes? Look, we don't have the answer. I did take a look at that. We don't know why it is so. Okay, so let me explain what is the CMB dipole and what is the question of its alignment with Earth's equinoxes. The CMB dipole, what is the CMB? It's the cosmic microwave background. What on earth does cosmic microwave background mean? To put it very simply, if you go out into outer space, empty space, you will find the remnants of the first light in the universe. Those photons are still flying around. The afterglow of the Big Bang itself. So, for about 380,000 years after the universe was born in the Big Bang, the universe was too dense and it was opaque to light. It was opaque to photons. And then eventually it became transparent to light, and light started flowing everywhere. So that first light, those photons still exist in the universe. You can still find them in space. And that's called the cosmic microwave background. It's got a temperature of about 2.7 or something Kelvin. Okay, almost close to absolute zero. Very cold, very faint light. Now, the Earth, the solar system, is moving in a certain direction in the galaxy, right? The sun is moving around the center of the galaxy like every other star. So because of that, because of the movement in the CMB rest frame, the Earth is moving through space. So it's on one side there is, you're gonna see the energy. You will see a difference in temperature of the cosmic microwave background radiation because of the Doppler effect. So on one side you will see colder CMB, on the other side you will see slightly warmer CMB. So that's called the CMB dipole. Okay, what's it look like? This is what it looks like. Okay, you can see a difference in temperature. Where we are coming from, where we are going. So when where we are coming from, on the back, it's going to be slightly cooler, slightly colder. The energy will be slightly lower. And over here, where we're going, it's going to be slightly warmer. That's the deal. And I'm sure AI will explain to us the largest temperature or energy variation, the energy of the cosmic microwave background, photons. because the local group of galaxies is moving at about 600 kilometers per second related to the CMB's rest frame, etc. So that's the CMB dipole. Okay. Now the CMB's dipole, that the difference in the temperature, it's incredibly shockingly well aligned with Earth's equinoxes. Okay. So see, the Earth goes around the sun. And if you take the Earth goes around the sun in an elliptical path, in an elliptical orbit. And that ellipse traces a plane, okay, the plane of the solar system. And the Earth, it rotates at an angle to that, okay, to the ecliptic. So the plane of the solar system, the plane that is traced out by Earth's revolution around the sun, that's called the ecliptic. And the Earth is its rotation is at about 23 degrees to the ecliptic. So the plane that's traced by Earth's revolution around the sun, it aligns almost perfectly with the CMB dipole. And it is believed that that cannot be entirely random. There's got to be some reason for that, but we're not quite sure what the reason is. And that's the thing. So it's a big mystery. That's the deal. So it's a really interesting paradox. It's a really interesting puzzle, cosmic puzzle that we have. And we don't quite have an answer to why this phenomenon exists. And that's one of the big open mysteries in physics today. So yeah, that's the deal. Shishirupadhyaya says, how will India's society progress in the next 30 years? Well, ask me to look into the future. I don't know. Look, it depends on so many things, so many factors. Assuming that India's economy keeps on growing the way it's growing. See, right now it's about 8% growth. Assuming it's even 6%. If India keeps growing at 8% per year, then in 20 years it's going to be a middle income nation. It's not going to be a low income nation. So India's GDP per capita will be like $12,000-$15,000 in today's dollar terms. Right now it's what, 3,000-4,000? I don't know. What is India's GDP per capita today? India GDP per capita. India GDP per capita in USD 2025. What do we have? It's about 3,000. Yeah. But if it keeps growing at about 8% per year, what will India's GDP per capita? Okay, let's not ask Google. I'm just saying, if it continues for 20 years at 8%, we're going to be a middle income nation. If it continues at 6% per year, even then we'll be close to a middle income nation. So if that happens, India's society will be more prosperous than what it is today. That's what I can tell you. But if there is some problem, if there's a war, and if things don't go the way they go, then there could be issues in society. So it depends on a variety of other factors. I cannot see the future. I can only tell you that if things go as they are going right now, India will be a middle income nation in 20 years, not even 30 years. In 30 years, if it still keeps growing at 8% per year, we're going to be a reasonably high middle income nation. And that's what I hope happens. But it's going to be very inconvenient for some other nations, and they will do their best to prevent that from happening. Which means that nations like the US and China will try and disrupt India's progress. Of course, they will, because it's beneficial to them. It's in their interest to disrupt India's progress. How could they disrupt India's progress? One thing is they could effect regime change or attempt regime change operations in India. They could tamper with India's electoral system, which has happened in the past. Even in 2020, which year was it? 2024? There most likely was external interference in India's electoral system, electoral process. So they could attempt a regime change operation. They could interfere in India's electoral process. They could induce India to go for some nation to attack India militarily. A lot of things could happen. So I have no idea which direction India's society will go in the next 30 years. It's impossible to predict the future. I think there's a high likelihood of war between India and Pakistan in the next 1 or 2 years, maybe next 5 years, definitely. The longer India waits for a war with Pakistan, the stronger Pakistan will get, because the US is bolstering Pakistan, bulking up Pakistan. So I think there's a high likelihood of war between India and Pakistan in the next 1 or 2 years. There's also a higher likelihood of war between India and China than China and Taiwan. So we could face serious challenges in the next 5 years. But if we somehow avoid a military conflict and we somehow avoid a regime change, and we somehow do everything right and avoid all issues, then in 20 years we'll be a middle income nation. So lots of ifs and buts here. So I can't really predict what's going to happen. A critical thinker says how to develop advanced problem solving skill in physics. How do you become a better, let's say you want to be a boxer. How do you become a better boxer? Do you become a better boxer by reading books about boxing? No, right? You become a better boxer by practicing boxing. Yeah. You do a certain set of drills and exercises every day. You warm up. You wake up at 4 a.m. You warm up for 5 minutes, then you go for a 5 kilometer run, maybe 8 kilometer run. You come back, you have a meal, then you go and do whatever exercises you would do. You know, your push-ups and your squats and your jumps and all that. Then you go and have another meal. Then you go and box. You go and do some, punching bag work. You can do some speed work, light bag. Then you do the heavy bag work. Then you take another rest. Then you go and do some sparring. So that's how you become a better boxer. And you have to do this over and over and over and over again. It's very boring. You have to do it for months on end. You have to do it for a couple of years on end. Then you start becoming a boxer. You go and do some actual bouts. Then you have to progress through the ranks, and that's what you do. So that's how you become a better boxer. Now, how do you become better at solving problems in physics? Not by reading how to solve problems, by actually attempting to solve problems. You understand the theory as quickly as possible. Don't waste half the time reading theory. Understand the fundamentals from the theory, understand the core equations, and then grab a book full of problems and start solving the problems. If you fail, if you don't figure it out if you're not able to solve a problem, go back to the fundamentals. Understand the fundamentals again. Understand how the equation was derived, what the equation means, and how to use the equation on the maths. So, which means that you have to be good at math. Problem solving in physics is essentially solving math problems, but the math means something physical. So to understand the correlation between the math and the actual physics also. So that's what you do. You solve a gazillion problems. You spend as much time as possible solving problems, not reading theory. That's what you do. And you start with the very basics, with the very fundamentals. You start with the very basic math. You don't start with advanced problems. You start with the simplest problems. You master that. Then you go one level up. Then you master that. How do you master? Not by reading, but by solving problems. Solve as many problems as possible. So that's what you do. All right. All the best. King Ritvik says, I worked in various states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Odisha, Maharashtra, Kerala. The best people were from Odisha, very well behaved and treat outsiders very well. We should accept Odisha has the best people. Okay, well, that's your experience. And I'm glad that you found Odisha very good. I haven't worked in so many states, so I can't say, I cannot. So my experience isn't as broad as yours. But in my experience, the people of Odisha are wonderful people. No question about that. So, and I have a special connection with Odisha because I was born in Odisha. So, and I've only been in Odisha 3 months of my life. Okay, so I don't really know. Last time I was in Odisha was when I was 3 months old. After that, I've never returned, unfortunately. I would love to. So I'm glad that you like Odisha that much. I'm sure the people are wonderful, and Odisha has a great history also, a very glorious history. So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you to the people of Odisha for being some of the best people we have in the country. UMX Glohaha says, Iran Glolhaha UMX Glolhaha. All right, whatever it is. Iran in India on X post that Shatranj, yes, was taught to them by an Indian, and they mastered it and became better than Indians, and they introduced the game to Indians that we couldn't even understand the game. Okay. I kind of saw that post briefly. It was about there was some video in it. See, look, there's no question about the fact that chess came from India. Everyone knows that. Chess was invented by Indians during the Saraswati Sindhu phase of our history. Uh, and obviously, if the Persians played chess, they would have learned it from Indians. No question about that. Now, I'm not sure if the Persians mastered it and became better than Indians about that. I'm not sure if that is what the post was about. And when they introduced a game, which game to Indians? When they introduced a game to Indians, we couldn't even understand the game. Which game are you talking about? Some other game. Are you saying that the Persians introduced some other game into India? I don't think that's what the post was about. The post was only about chess. And I did not watch the entire video because I don't have the time to watch long videos, even if they're 2 minutes long. But yeah, okay. All right. Okay, WBR says an Indian vlogger went to Russia to meet a World War II veteran who told how German soldiers used to put Russian babies under tank tracks. Why is this not talked about? Instead, all the focus is on atrocities in Berlin by Soviets. Look, war is pure horror. War is horrible. If you're a soldier, your job is to kill. Right? And once you start killing, you will see everyone as the enemy who are on the other side. I'm not trying to justify anything, by the way. I'm just saying that for many people, eventually the boundaries will blur. They should not blur. As a soldier, as a person, you have to be disciplined, you have to be professional. But as we know, all wars eventually lead to atrocities. I mean, look at what the Americans did in Iraq, Abu Ghraib and whatnot. Look at what the Canadians as UN peacekeepers did in Somalia. I mean, wars always lead to atrocities. The longer a war lasts, the more atrocities there are. Yeah. In the modern era. And we know that the Russians suffered a lot at the hands of the Nazi invaders. No question about that. Yeah. So my point is, our coverage of history has to be balanced. It cannot. The problem is that, like Napoleon said, history is a bunch of lies written by. Is a set of lies agreed upon. And the objective of writing history is to distort what happened and to serve political and other agendas. Sometimes the purpose is to justify an invasion. Sometimes the purpose is to justify the occupation and brutalization of a country. That's what the Europeans have done with India. They have sought to justify their occupation of India for 2.5 centuries, the British, by claiming that Indians had a horrible culture and they had to be civilized. Right? Caste and sati and whatnot. They've invented all these things, all these stories. And they actually imposed the caste system upon India, that fold caste system, which we still continue today. So the right way to do history is to just put all the facts out there. But history has become a tool of propaganda, and that's why we have these issues. So why is this not talked about? Because one side won and another side lost. And that's why the winning side, which was the side that won? It's not about who won the Second World War. The Soviets defeated the Germans in the Second World War, right? And yet, the Nazi atrocities against the Russians are not that spoken about, even though the Soviets won. Because afterwards, the Soviets lost the Cold War. And that's why the Western narrative is the predominant narrative today, even though the Soviets did win the Second World War. So that's why today we have a certain set of narratives out there. And ideally, it should not be like that. But we live in the real world. Biju Saikia says, you can check it in Google. Since 2021, China's GDP is stuck at about 18 trillion. What happened to the growth? Okay, let's find out. Let's first of all check this. China GDP graph. Billions of USD. Okay, so that they're not showing rupees. Okay. Show us the graph, bro. What is this? Statista. Let us see Statista. Do we have statista? Economy of China, China GDP macro trends. Let's take a look at macro trends. Do they have a graph? Okay, 3 years, 17.88. Ooh la la, what has happened here? Looks like you are totally right. Since 2021, it's stuck at 17 or 18 something. Let's go back. Let's check this from somewhere else. Comparing United States and China by economy. Okay, let's do that. Sure. Let us see. Do you have a graph? I decline. Go away. Shoo. So China is stuck at 18, 3 years. What happened? 2020, 2019 is the pandemic year. Then 2020 is the pandemic. 21, 22, 23. I don't know what happened. I think the pandemic did a. Was it because of the pandemic? Was it because of something else? I have not really looked into this. Did the pandemic cause a tremendous amount of damage to the Chinese economy? Did the Chinese economy get stuck because of it? Is there some other causative factor? Not sure. I will have to actually look into this. Right now, I don't have the answer to what happened to their growth. Why is China stuck at 18 the past 3 or so years? Something seems to have happened. It's not like the TFR has caused the GDP to suddenly get stuck. The TFR, the Chinese TFR has collapsed a long time ago. Could be, has to be something else. I'll have to look into it. I don't have the answer right now. Rajat has become a new member. Thank you so much, Rajat. Let us all welcome Rajat to the membership of this channel. Thank you very much, sir. UMX Glow ha 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 says jihadist terror attack in Australian beach. My thoughts. Horrible, terrible, tragic, unacceptable. Pakistanis, right? I'm pretty sure at least one of the persons is a Pakistani. This happened today, Bondi Beach, I think. It was some kind of Jewish event or something, and at least a couple of Pakistani terrorists, at least a couple of gunmen were there. Should we call them gunmen or should we just call them terrorists? If there's an attack in India, Western news outlets will say that gunmen have attacked Indians. They won't say terrorists have attacked Indians. They'll say gunmen. Let us see how the Australian media has reported the Pahalgam attack. SMH, Sydney Morning Herald. Look at this. Sydney Morning Herald. Gunmen kill dozens of tourists at Indian resort in Kashmir. So this is how Australian newspapers and media report terror attacks in India. Gunmen kill dozens of tourists. Gunmen. Yeah. Worst attack. Not terror attack, but worst attack. Have they used the word terror anywhere? Okay, they say that police has described this as a terror attack, but they refuse to describe it as a terror attack. So this is the attitude of the Australian media. What are, Australian media? Militants. Okay, it's militants now. Yeah. SBS. Does it say gunmen? BBC will say gunmen. Okay. So look, I am obviously what's happened in Australia today is tragic. It is horrible. It's unacceptable. It seems to have emanated out of Pakistan. Pakistan is a terrorist nation. It looks like there have been I don't know how many casualties. Some people seem to have lost their lives, which is horrible. What can I say? Terrible. I also want to point out that the Australian media likes to portray terrorist attacks on Indians as attacks done by militants or gunmen, not by terrorists. It's maybe not the right time, wrong time. There's no right or wrong time. So why does the Australian media like to portray terrorism against Indians as not terrorism? Why is that? And it's also interesting that the United States has decided to ban immigration from certain countries of extreme concern. And this list of countries from which immigration has been banned, this list does not include Pakistan. Pakistan is not a country of concern apparently for the Americans, for Donald Trump and his regime. And see what happened in Australia. So the West seems to have a death wish. They seem to be deeply in love with Pakistan and the kind of ideology and the culture that emanates out of Pakistan. Well, all right. You pay the price for that then. What can I say? Very unfortunate, tragic, horrible, unacceptable. Biju Saikia says, will we ever find a theory of everything? Probably not. Probably not. Why do I say probably not? Because we are not. The universe is most likely too complicated for us to understand. Us as a species. See, our species has a limit to its intelligence. The most intelligent human beings, what is their IQ gonna be like? If you are, what's the genius level IQ? It's 150, right? If you are 150 and above in IQ, you are a genius. So I think the highest IQ a human can have is potentially around 180 or 200, which is like super genius. But maybe you need an IQ of 500 to understand the universe properly and actually find a theory of everything. It's possible. Yeah. So there are limitations to our intelligence, and that's why it's likely that the universe is so vast and so complex that we may never find a theory for everything. VSVS says, I went to Shanghai and Beijing in 2023. The city centers were beautiful, but literally a 30-minute drive outside led to trash, poor people, and potholes. Do you think they are just better at PR? They are unquestionably a million times better than India at PR. They have many of the same problems that India has. It's not like India is the only nation that is corruption. China is super corrupt, but China executes people for corruption. And they also, brush a lot of the corruption under the carpet. China has corruption, China has pollution, China has potholes, China has homeless people, China has slums, China has all these problems. But this is all kept away from the public view. And what the Chinese do is they pay so-called influencers, etc., to show the good parts of China. The Chinese government is concerned about China's image. That is where China is different from India. The Indian government doesn't care about India's image. Otherwise, they would do something. To improve India's image, you have to do two things at the same time. One, improve the conditions in India. Improve the conditions. Don't simply try to hide it. Improve the conditions. So that takes hard work, but that's not happening at various levels. At some levels, a lot of work is happening. See, the government of India, the central government has done a tremendous amount of work since 2014. Okay, no question. But at lower levels, at state, districts, at other levels, I don't know what's happening. And that's where the image of India comes from, right? On the ground level. And the central government doesn't have, let's forget about the causative factors. But so on the one hand, you have to improve the conditions on the ground. On the other hand, you have to go on a PR campaign to show the good parts of India and possibly not show the bad parts of India. The same thing China is doing. But we don't do that. The government of India, when I say it's not concerned about India's image, what I mean is that they don't invest money for PR. They don't spend money for PR exercises. They don't invest in influencers, maybe 10,000 influencers from various countries, maybe 1,000 influencers from various countries. You pay for the travels, you pay for their gear, you pay them a certain monthly retainer with the understanding that every month they'll put out a certain number of videos or reels or whatever showing India in a good light. It doesn't take a lot of money to do that. But India doesn't do that at all. India is not concerned. That's what I mean when I say India is not concerned. The government of India is not concerned. The government of India doesn't care about India's image. If it would hire people. It would pay people. It would commission people to create these campaigns. So the Chinese do it. The Chinese pay lots of influencers good money to show China in the best possible light. And that's why these people, these YouTubers and Instagrammers and all, they will relentlessly put out reels and videos showing the best parts of China and keeping the bad parts out of the frame. The Chinese are super good at PR. India doesn't care about PR. That's the problem. I just don't understand why the government of India has this strange attitude. WBR says mechanical designs, engineering, or quantum. Your interests. My interest. My interest, as the whole world knows, is quantum mechanics. I am sure mechanical designs, mechanical engineering is interesting. Aeronautical engineering is interesting. Everything is interesting. But if I had to pick one, it would be quantum mechanics, of course. And that's what I've picked in the past. Okay, Al Janib says chances for life as we know to move on or begin. Chances for life as we know to move to or begin independently on the moons of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune as Sun gradually becomes a red giant, pushing Goldilocks zone further out, plus life sustaining parameters holding well. Look, when will the Sun become a red giant? Maybe in 4 billion years. How old is the solar system? 4.54 billion years? So the amount of time the solar system has existed, it's going to have to exist for another that much amount of time for the Sun to start becoming a red giant. Around that much time. Yeah. And as the Sun slowly expands and becomes a red giant, the Goldilocks zone will move outwards. No question about it. So eventually, at the peak of the red giant phase, our Earth is going to be swallowed up by the Sun. So the Goldilocks zone will go outwards, further and further outwards. What will the solar system look like at that point in time? We're not quite sure. So the solar system has been evolving over time. There have been some planets that may have been ejected out of the solar system in deep antiquity. The orbits of the planets have been reconfigured over time. It's possible that Venus may be the orbit of Venus may go somewhere else in the future. These are not entirely 100% stable orbits. They will change over hundreds of millions of years, maybe billions of years. That's one thing. Secondly, what are the chances for life to begin independently or move on to the moons? Chances, well, to begin independently, there could already be life on maybe Europa, maybe Enceladus, maybe on Titan. A different kind of life than what we can potentially imagine. On Titan, it will be a totally different kind of life because the chemistry is totally different there. It's methane based chemistry on Titan. When it comes to Europa and Enceladus, it's subsurface oceans that we have there. Even Pluto may have a subsurface ocean. So as the Goldilocks zone goes outwards, maybe Europa becomes an ocean world. Maybe Enceladus also becomes an ocean world, and the several kilometer thick ice crust just melts. Then you could have life there that could be similar to the kind of life that we have in the oceans of our planet. All kinds of possibilities are open, and the change in the Sun and its transition to becoming a red giant, it will not happen over a time period of weeks. It's going to happen very, very, very slowly, and it will happen over evolutionary geological time scales, which will give life the time to evolve in and adapt to the changing circumstances. Okay, King Ritwik says, when will India reach that stature, power, confidence, and take back what's ours so that China will fear us and call Tibet, Arunachal occupied Lhasa? When will that happen? Look, once again, India is currently growing. The last quarter or whatever it was, India's economy grew at 8%. Despite Trump's tariffs, despite all the issues, India's economy grew at 8%. Assuming India's economy keeps growing at 8%, in 20 years, we will be a middle income nation like what China is right now. Even if we grow at 6% per year, in 30 years, we'll be a middle income nation. Okay. So when and China's economy is not growing that well now. China faces issues, but China has advantages that we don't have. China is not a democracy. China has a government that's way more efficient than ours. China already has a massive industrial base. We don't have it. China has a fantastic education system. We have the world's most rotten education system. So we can have an economy that's comparable to what China is today in 20 years, let's say. But if our system is still rotten, then we will never get our act together. So we're going to have to change all those things. It may, if we are to be optimistic, maybe in 20, 30 years, we will have the stature, power, confidence, all that. Yeah. We'll have to become an industrial power. We'll have to become a manufacturing power to be comparable to China. It's not just the size of your economy. You can have money, but if you don't know how to make things, then what will you do with that money? Huh? You may have the greatest culture and the greatest economy, but if you can't defend yourself because you don't have the industrial base, what do? But obviously, we are taking steps in the direction. We will now soon have, hopefully, indigenous jet engines. I don't know about AI. I don't know what we're doing with AI and so on. But yeah, hopefully we go in that direction. So maybe 20, 30 years if you are to be optimistic. Yeah. Rahman Baloch says, Assalam alaikum from Liari, Lahore, Pakistan. Well, namaste back to you, sir. Greetings and good to have you, Rahman Balochi. Good to have you. Liari is in Lahore. Oh, all right. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. Sangam Kumar says, can China beat the US in Taiwan as leaked report says? The Chinese can take Taiwan if the Americans are okay with it. Otherwise, China will get nothing. The Americans are just way too powerful. If China tries to invade Taiwan, they will not only have to fight America, they will also have to fight Japan because the Americans control Japan. So they will press Japan into action. Japan has a frighteningly good navy. Japan is very, very good, technologically. The Americans can allow Japan to become a nuclear power next weekend if they want to. Japan has the technological know-how to do that. The Americans can even press South Korea into action. If China tries to take Taiwan and America doesn't want China to take Taiwan, the Chinese won't succeed no matter what happens. Right? So it's not that easy. It's very hard. Pratham Medhekar says, to what extent are claims of Dhurandhar true in Liari? I still haven't watched it, so I can't say. Hopefully this coming week, I will watch it. Then next weekend I can answer this question. Right now, I don't have the answer. Sorry, because I haven't seen it. Right? Sorry about that. Polarize says, houses have nullies higher than the road. Then dust and water stagnates. If nullies are leveled properly, much of the dust would be in sewer and not on road. What's a nully? Nully means what? Nully means a canal? Nully is a gutter. What is it? Okay, houses have canals or gutters higher than the road. Then dust and water stagnates. If these canals or gutters are leveled properly, much of the dust would be in the sewer or not on road. Okay, you are talking about dust in India. The dust, why is there so much dust in India? I'll tell you. Okay, let's discuss the issue of dust. There's no question that India's cities, towns, villages, etc. are very dusty. Let's go to the map to understand what on earth is happening. Yeah, let's look. So here's India. Okay, the subcontinent. Very dusty place. You go and let's go to the heart of India and just place a marker there. What's the latitude? Latitude is 23 degrees north. Longitude is 79. So if we go to a similar latitude, maybe in Vietnam, okay. So here also it's 20, 21, 23, 23. Okay. So if we go to Hanoi, which is at a similar latitude, you don't have that much dust. You go to, let's say, perhaps this place in China, Fujian province, 26 degrees of latitude. You don't have that much dust. You go to, for example, if we go, see, Mexico is at a very similar latitude set of latitudes as India. Here you have 20. This is very similar to Indian latitudes. That's why the climate of Mexico is so similar to India. But in Mexico, you don't have that much dust compared to India. Mexico is dusty, but not as much as India. The question is, why is India so dusty? And all And what can we do about this? The major reason why India is so dusty is because we have a big desert in India, the Thar Desert. See, look here, the Thar Desert, huge, big, arid, barren region. It has sand dunes, it has dust, and that is the reason why there is so much dust in the Indian subcontinent, the Thar Desert. Secondly, deforestation. Okay, 10,000 years ago, you had forests all across India. Today, about 10 or 15% of India is covered by forests. And that is another reason. And third is construction, etc. But the major reason is the Thar Desert. The major reason why you have this issue in India, so much dust, is because of the Thar Desert. The Thar Desert is what uh, makes India so dusty. And of course, there are lots of things in the government of India can do to make India less dusty. But some of a significant portion of it comes from the desert. It's a natural phenomenon. Okay. Biju Saikia says, do you think there should be term limits on our leaders? Does India have the potential to be an autarky? Autarky. Do I think there should be term leaders? Well, term limits. Term limits. Well, it has pros and cons. Yeah, term limits have their advantages, their disadvantages. If you have So what term limits do is that they ensure that if you have a bad leader who's not good enough but who is somehow popular, then if you have a 2-term limit, then even if that person is popular, they can't do too much damage to the country because they only have 2 terms. But on the other hand, if a leader is fantastic for the country but can only serve for 2 terms, then it's bad for the country. So it works both ways. Now you have term limits in the United States. In the US, it doesn't really matter who's the president because the president doesn't really run the country. The president simply draws attention to himself. It's himself. And the president usually does whatever the people who are really in power, they want him to do. So in the US, it doesn't really matter. And term limits, okay, good. So do I think there should be term limits on our leaders? Term limits make sense if your system is good. What do I mean by a good system? A good system is a system that will, no matter what happens, give you good leaders. A good system is a system that identifies leadership talent, rewards leadership talent, and elevates leadership talent. That's the right system. That's the right system. The Indian system is not such that it identifies and rewards meritorious leadership talent. The Indian system, if you look at the history of India the past 80 years, it hasn't given us the best leaders. We are lucky that we have someone like Mr. Modi right now. Imagine the alternatives. Yeah. So I think for term limits make sense only if your system is guaranteed to give you high quality leadership alternatives to what is currently there. In that case, if there is one person who is in power, but 5 other equally good or even better leaders who could come to power, then term limits make sense. But if you have a situation in a system where you have one good leader who's in power right now, but 78 not so good leaders who are waiting to take over, then term limits will destroy the country. Given the current system of India, I think term limits don't make sense. If we change the system and give and have a system that's guaranteed to throw up good leaders, then term limits make sense. Right now, in this system, term limits are very dangerous for India. Udbhav Sharma says, in a future war with AI systems, using AI systems, how could counter AI technology of a country defend against or neutralize enemy AI? Can't. Yeah. Can't. You can't have AI fight AI. You can have systems fighting systems, not AI systems, physical systems. AI is not a physical thing, right? It's not like you have a missile that's flying and you have a missile that destroys a missile. So you shoot down a missile with another missile, like what we have today, right? Missile defense systems. But AI is not something you can shoot down with another AI. There is no such thing as counter AI technology. See, understand how wars will happen in the future. You will have drone swarms. As one example of an offensive weapon, drones can be used as offensive weapons. We know that very well. And the best way to use drones is in swarms, maybe 100 drones at the same time, maybe 1,000 drones at the same time. And how will the drones be controlled and coordinated? Through AI. And AI will not be on the drones. The drones will have onboard chips, but they'll be interconnected through whatever systems, and they may be connected to satellites. And through the satellites or whatever the systems, they will get orders from the AI. And the AI will know, the AI will be system sitting somewhere else, far away. And the AI will know exactly where each drone is in relation to the others and in relation to the target, physically, geographically. And the AI will ensure that the drones have the best chances of surviving against offensive measures. And this is the country, and the other country will also have its own AI system, which will control the defensive military systems. So the country with the best AI wins. But it's not like AI is fighting AI. AI is controlling equipment. Both AIs are controlling equipment, and the AIs that have access to the better equipment, and the AIs that are more intelligent will prevail. That's how it will work. Pratham Medekar says you can go to the midnight shows of Dhurandhar now. Is the movie being shown at midnight? That'll be fantastic. Yeah, I'm not sure if, see, right now it's almost 10 p.m. here where I am, and I've completed nearly 2 hours of this live stream, and I still have 40, 50 super chats left to go. So I don't think I'll be able to see the midnight show tonight, but that's fine. That's fine. Ananta Subramaniam says, which key lessons from history do most people miss? I can make a 2-hour video about that. It's not something I can explain in a couple of minutes. There are so many lessons from history. You can write a book about the lessons from history. And it's not like historical lessons are necessarily universal. Each country has a specific set of lessons it needs to learn from history. So if you are sitting in, let's say, Romania, the key historical lessons you need to learn may be different from the key historical lessons a person sitting in India needs to learn. It will be different from Mexico. So it is context dependent. It's geography dependent. It depends on the context of the geography, the culture, the specific history of the country, place, etc. But overall, what key lessons do we miss? One key lesson that we have to understand is that the system of governance that works the best is not democracy, it is autocracy. It is dictatorship. Look at the history of the entire world the past 2,000, 3,000 years. The system that has been the most enduring is monarchy, which is what? Dictatorship, right? Democracy is a facade. It's an illusion. It's a polite illusion created to give people the false sense of confidence that they have the fate of the world in their hands. It's not true. It's always it's a means to mislead people. Democracy is an illusion. That's one key lesson of history. The second key lesson of history, I would say, is that all major historical change happens through warfare. Okay? All major historical change, every major historical change has happened through warfare, through violence. Understand that. So I'm sure there are way more key lessons, but I can't go on forever about that right now in this live stream. Maybe I can make a separate video about that. VS has gifted 10 memberships to people. So VS, I really appreciate you. You did that yesterday also. You gifted, I don't know how many memberships, a lot of memberships, and you're doing that today also. Thank you so much for your kindness, and not just to me and my channel, but to the people who are viewers here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Godliness says Pakistan now has Saudi bank, US patronage, and Chinese help, also Turkish technology. Do you suspect a more violent and dangerous Pakistan in the future? I expect war between India and Pakistan in the next 1 or 2 years. I'll be very surprised if there isn't a war between India and Pakistan in the next 1 or 2 years. The longer India waits, the more powerful Pakistan will become because of foreign help. There is nothing in Pakistan that makes it powerful. That the Pakistanis have all this help coming in from various nations. At the end of the day, it's all being coordinated by the United States. The United States is now implementing a policy of containing India. And the best way to contain India is by using rogue nations, terrorist nations like Pakistan. You keep your hands dirty and have Pakistan do the dirty terror work and all that work for you. You fund them. You give them F-16s. You give them arms, ammunition, weapons, training. You have your allies or your vassals give them money, right? And the US and China both agree that India needs to be contained. So even though the US and China are adversaries, they agree about India. So the longer India waits and sits back, the more powerful Pakistan will become. I expect a war between India and Pakistan in the next 1 or 2 years. Right. Udbhav Sharma says, Pakistan to release Mera Layari movie to counter Durandar. All right. Let them do it. Ankita Kachap has also gifted 10 memberships. Ma'am, thank you so much. You also did that yesterday, so I also really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being so kind to this channel and to its viewers. Thank you so much, Pam. And VS has gifted 10 more memberships. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you. Both of you. Thank you. Okay, My Rhythm says, Breaking India by Rajiv Malhotra is genuine. Can I read it? Sir, you decide what you read or not. Breaking India, Rajiv Malhotra. I haven't read it. But I haven't read it, so I can't say. But I have heard a lot of good things about it. And Mr. Malhotra has a very good reputation, no question about that, right? So I would say you should go and find out for yourself whether it is good enough and whether you like it or not. Based on what I've heard, I'm sure you will gain something from it. Yeah. So yeah, I would say if you are curious about it, definitely go ahead and read it. Godliness says, we want Ram Rajya, but the reality is corruption is thriving with no police, judicial, or education reform, and now reservation in the private universities of Maharashtra. Are we fighting a lost war? I don't know. Look, Ram Rajya is the ultimate objective. It is the greatest objective, right? But before we reach Ram Rajya, we need to slowly improve things. We can only improve step by step by step. Eventually, someday we will reach Ram Rajya, the greatest state a nation can have, society can have. I think everybody understands that there seems to be a lot of corruption in various parts of India, which is the legacy of the past 80 years of misgovernance. Right? And that seems to be the hardest nut to crack. Because it looks like allegedly the entire system may possibly hypothetically run on corruption. So I've said this so many times. It is the biggest problem that faces India. And if India wants to get its act together, it has to launch a war on corruption. The other thing is reforms at various levels. Yeah, various levels. And some of the most critical, crucial, urgent reforms that we need are educational reforms. Now, I've been saying this for like 4 years now. This channel has been active for about 4 years. I've been saying that. Maybe, are we fighting a lost war? I don't know about that. I don't think it's a lost war. Maybe it will take longer. Maybe there are problems and issues and obstacles that we sitting over here can't see, perhaps. Maybe the government is better aware of how things are. Maybe these things will take time. I would say be optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. Yeah. So I don't think it's a lost war. We will win eventually. UMX Gluhaha says, BCom absolutely horrible. Should I leave this degree? I don't know, sir. Do you have a plan B? Okay, so you're doing a BCom. It's horrible. Whether you're doing a BCom or a BTech or whatever, it's going to be horrible. The Indian education system is garbage. It is trash. Your teachers are trash. Your textbooks are trash. The syllabus is trash. The curriculum is trash. The exams are trash. Everything is trash. It's a waste of people's time. But without the degree, you will not get a job. My question to you is, yeah, I know, I agree. It's horrible. But do you have a plan B? If you quit your education, if you walk out of college or whatever, like Steve Jobs did. Steve Jobs walked out of college. Yeah. Elon Musk walked out of his program. My point is, if you do that, do you have a plan B? What will you do? If you have a viable plan which is likely to succeed, then go for it. Otherwise, stick to your degree. Biju Saikya says, we Hindus consider Asuras evil and Devas as good, but ancient Iranians used to worship Ahuras and consider Devas evil. Why did they go into this path? Not ancient Iranians, more recent Iranians, Persians. Look, before Zarathustra was born, India and Persia had the same culture, same religion. We worship the same gods, same deities. Zarathustra, when he was born, when he was a little baby, his parents were Hindus. He was Hindu. But then Zarathustra came up with this new thing. He inverted some of the elements of our religion. So we consider Asuras to be complex. We don't necessarily consider Asuras to be evil. All Asuras aren't evil. Asuras are complex and they have slightly more negative qualities than the Devas. That's how we look at it. But in Persia, what Zarathustra did was he inverted this entire thing, and he made the Asuras or the Ahuras, because the Persians could not say Sa, they said Ha instead. So he said that the Ahuras are the good guys and the Devas are the bad guys. Why did they go in that direction? I don't know. Somehow Zarathustra seems to have been a very charismatic person, and he got the entire population of Persia, including, maybe not the entire population of Persia, but he got the emperors to take up his path. And that's why it became the official state religion of Persia, more or less, de facto state religion of Persia. How it happened, we don't know. The records are lost. Why are the records lost? Because Alexander came and destroyed the Persian Empire and burned the capital city of Parshvapur. The Greeks called it Persepolis. The actual name was Parshvapur. And the Greeks, the Macedonians, they burned it, they destroyed everything, and no records are left. So we in India know that our ancient universities and libraries all across the subcontinent were destroyed and burned by the Turks. Where in Persia, that happened a century, more than a millennium before. The Greeks destroyed Persia. And that's why we don't know when exactly Zarathustra lived and how he was able to get his religion and make his religion the de facto state religion of Persia. We don't know how it happened. Narendra Reddy says, can I do a business with no job experience? You can. But if you have job experience, it makes you better equipped to understand things. But you don't need to have job experience to do a business. You just need to get the fundamentals right. You need to be very careful with your money, and you need to scale and etc. It depends on the kind of business you're doing. So you don't necessarily need job experience to do a business. There are lots of business people who have never worked a job, but they do business. But you need to learn how to do business. See, there are various business communities in India where you learn from your parents, because it's the family business, right? So typically, if you are a young person in such a household, you will be made to work in the family shop, which is kind of like getting job experience, but you also get business experience. So if you don't have any job experience, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do a business, but you have to be careful. You have to acquire the right skills at the earliest. Ritik Pawar says, Lenin versus Stalin versus Putin, who is the greatest? Why? Lenin, Stalin. See, thus far, Stalin is I'm not saying Stalin is good. He killed lots of people. His policies led to the deaths of millions of his own people. But he is the man, Stalin, who transformed this destroyed nation into a superpower. So thus far, Stalin is the greatest. Lenin, I would say Stalin is way greater than Lenin. Of course, Stalin mismanaged some things. He put Crimea into the Ukrainian SSR for administrative reasons, which caused a lot of problems decades later, as Putin knows. Could Putin be greater than Stalin? It's too early to tell. If Putin gets his succession right, then he will be remembered as Putin the Great. But if he gets his succession wrong, then everything he has done will be for nothing. Okay? So Putin will need to be careful about his succession. He is no longer a young man, Mr. Vladimir Putin. He's in his early or mid 70s. Let's say he has 10 years more before, he will have to relinquish power at some point in time. So he will have to ensure that the succession goes right and the right person comes to power after him. If the wrong person comes to power after him, then everything Putin has worked for will be lost. So the succession is what matters. If he gets the succession right, then he will be remembered in history as Putin the Great. Otherwise, Biju Saikia says, do you use any mental models? I'm sure I do, but I don't know what they're called. I have my own mental models. I've not studied textbooks that this is the mental model called so and so, and this is how you use it. I use mental models, but I don't know what they are called. I have my own proprietary mental models, which I use for various things. Not sure what they're called. Amisha Mishra says, skin hair care tips and as a student care of eyes. Skin hair care tips. And it depends from person to person. Everyone's biology is different. Some people have dry skin, some people have oily skin, some people have certain kinds of hair, some people have straight hair, some people have curly hair. I have curly hair. You may not see it from here because I always keep it nice and tidy, but my hair is pretty curly. Okay, that sort of hair. So everyone's parameters are different. What I would say is that understand the kind of skin that you have and take care of it. If you have oily skin, make sure it's dry. If it's dry skin, make sure that you moisturize. Keep it simple and have a routine. Similarly for hair. So ideally, you should wash your hair 3 times a week. Don't use soap to wash your hair. When I was a kid, I used to use soap to wash my hair. Use shampoo, use a conditioner. Use whatever is good. Ideally, it should be more as natural as possible, as chemical free as possible. That sort of thing. What about eyes? When it comes to eyes, don't read. When you're reading, don't keep the book too close to your eyes. Keep it at a good distance. And look, if you spend a lot of time reading, it's very likely that you will end up with glasses. That unfortunately, as a student, you have to read. You read a lot. And that's going to be a thing. So I would say spend some time every day outdoors. Allow your eyes to look at long distances. Maybe spend some time looking at the sky, looking at objects that are like several kilometers away, hills, mountains, whatever, so that your eyes get used to different focal lengths, not just the short focal lengths, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's what I can say. But as a student, if you spend a lot of time reading, as every student does, it's highly likely that you will have to wear glasses at some point in time. I hope not. If you're a sports person, if you're a cricketer, I remember where I read about Sunil Gavaskar, that he used to ensure he never read fine print. He would have somebody else read it for him. He would never read fine print. He made sure that he took as good care of his eyes as possible, which means never read longer than you need to. But as a student, you can't do that. So yeah, you'll have to take as many precautions as possible. And what else? Yeah, get adequate sunlight, not too much sunlight. And I suppose eat carrots for your eyes. I don't know, vitamin D or something, vitamin A, whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. VS says, if no 2014, then we wouldn't demand anything. Yeah, if Mr. Modi had not won in 2014, then I don't know what shape India would be in today. And Indians would not be confident and not be as demanding as they're today. So today, Indians have aspirations. Indians say that why is this country in such bad shape? India should be a first world nation by now. Indians want India to be a superpower. That's because of the change, the transformation that's happened in India since 2014. India was in terrible shape in 2014. Young people who are 15, 16 years old have no idea what India was like 20 years ago. It was in terrible shape. India has come a long way since 2014. And because India has grown and advanced so much, I know the problems exist. And that's why Indians are focusing on those problems now. That India's economy is so much bigger now. Why do we still have those problems? So we would not demand these things if if we were still in the position that we were in 2014. We would not have those aspirations. We would not have those dreams, those hopes, those demands. That things need to change for the better much faster now, right? So we were at 0. Now we reached 1. Then from 1 we have reached 10. Now the question is, now that we are at 10, how do we reach to 100? That's the question. WBR says Free Nations of Post-Russia Forum claims nations like Bashkortostan, Tatarstan, etc. are colonized by Russia and should become independent. It gained traction after 2022. That way you can claim everything needs to be independent. I would say go to France and say that Brittany should be independent. Provence should be independent. Go to Spain. In Spain you have Catalonia. You have what is it called? What is it called? The Basque region, the Basque country should be independent. In every nation you can start all these independence movements. What about the US? The Lone Star State. What about it? What about Quebec on Canada? So, all these ideas, they have gained traction since 2022, because in 2022 Russia did something that the West did not like. Russia started looking out for its own interests. It drew a hard red line when it comes to Ukraine. And so that was the deal. So Bashkortostan, Tatarstan, etc. These are all, it's all a matter of convenience. When the West wants to pull, pressurize you, they will start making these narratives and all these claims popular. And they're doing similar things with India also right now. So yeah, indeed. James says, so we gave you a head start of several millennia, and Clive of India still knocked over your civilization in a few years. Yeah, well, Clive of India, Robert Clive, okay. It's a live show. I should be polite. I should maintain some politeness and not use certain words for the person. The point is this. Look, India had a head start of several millennia. No question about that. Yeah. What happened? Why did Clive get the opportunity to do what he did? Because before the Christians, before the Europeans came to India, India was already in bad shape. It got into bad shape because it was occupied by the Turks for several centuries. Various parts of India, not the entire subcontinent, various parts of India, creeping expansion of the occupation, the Turkic occupation. How did the Turks get into India? Because they started invading India, attempting to invade India when India was fragmented. India was no longer under one single empire. The previous empire was the Gupta Empire, which encompassed the entire subcontinent. But empires come and go in cycles. So the imperial cycle had ended. After an empire ends, there's a period of maybe a couple of centuries or multiple centuries of fragmentation. The same thing you find in China and every other imperial systems. So the Turks invaded India when India was fragmented, and that's why they were able to, over a period of like 3-4 centuries, make inroads into India. And eventually by the 1700s, they occupied a very large portion of the subcontinent. Then the Marathas took over, and the Marathas had this great opportunity to eject all foreigners from India. But there was infighting among the Marathas too, and the Maratha Empire collapsed rather sooner than it should have. And that's why Clive and his likes were able to do what they did. And they were pretty rapacious, evil, despicable people, weren't they? I mean, so were the Turks, no question. And that's how it goes. So my point is, what's the point of having a great culture? What's the point of having great civilization or a great economy when you cannot deal with barbarians? And that's the lesson of history India needs to learn. It's not enough to develop your economy. We are growing at 8% per year. We will be a middle income nation in 20 years. Good. But what about your military power? Your military strength should also increase proportionately, right? Maybe more than proportionately. If you're growing at 8% per year, your military expenditure maybe should grow at 10% per year. Because the larger your economy is, the more valuable your country is. And the more others would be tempted to do something about it. So yeah, these are the lessons of history that we have to learn. And I appreciate James, and thank you, James, for pointing this out and having me speak about this. James. Godliness says Pakistan, even after May conflict, was ready to go all out against India. That 3,000 kilogram explosive in Faridabad was enough for mass casualties. Their intention is clear: war, and we still don't respond. Why? So the Pakistanis launched a missile at Delhi, and it was intercepted over Sirsa in Haryana, right? A couple of hundred, pretty close to Delhi. It was intercepted by one of our air defense systems. And there are the CCTV videos that you will see on social media. There's this big flash. You can see the Indian air defense missile being launched, and there's a big flash in the sky, and later there's this gigantic bang, huge bang, which means that the missile the Pakistanis launched had already re-entered the atmosphere. Because otherwise, if it was intercepted outside the atmosphere, there will be no audible bang. So the missile was intercepted within the Earth's atmosphere over Sirsa in Haryana. So that was a missile that was launched at Delhi. I'm not sure what it contained. Did it contain conventional explosive, or was it something else? So the Pakistanis, they had decided to go after Delhi. And Pakistan, as long as it exists, is gonna be a threat to India. So the only solution to the Pakistan problem is the Balkanization of Pakistan. That's what India has to achieve. Now, why are we not responding as you say? Because Pakistan is not merely Pakistan. When you fight Pakistan, you're not only fighting Pakistan. Pakistan is backed up by the most powerful nation in the world. And the nuclear weapons Pakistan has are most likely American nuclear warheads. So that also is something we have to factor in. We are not fighting. See, when Russia is fighting Ukraine, who is Russia fighting? Is it really fighting Ukraine? The Ukraine war would have ended in 2022 itself. Why is it still going on? Because all those arms, ammunition, weapons, money, funds, everything that Ukraine has, it's coming from the West. What is the West? It's the NATO nations. Who controls NATO? The US. Russia is actually fighting a US proxy in Ukraine. Similarly, if India and Pakistan fight, India is fighting an American proxy once again. So that's the deal. And if we initiate a war, the Americans will impose sanctions on India. So we'll have to be very careful about how to deal with Pakistan. But the next time there is a fight, we have to break Pakistan into pieces. We have to end the threat once and for all. We can't keep living with this permanent blackmail on our western frontier. So it has to, this issue will need to be fixed at the earliest. I expect war in the next 1 or 2 years. Fast Snail, I love that. Fast Snail says, wouldn't Russia want to fix India-China relations? No. First of all, Russia can't fix India-China relations. Secondly, understand the dynamics. Russia is currently in the position of being a junior partner of China. Right? And Russia understands that India-China relations, it's not some machine that you can put a few screws and bolts on and fix the problem, right? It's not like that. Understand what's central to the India-China issue. Why are relations bad between India and China? Relations are bad not because India has been poking China and harassing China, but because China firstly refuses to demarcate the India-Tibet border. And secondly, China claims more Indian territory. That's why relations are bad. Not because of India, but because of China. China is more powerful. India is less powerful. China is about 4 times more powerful than India. Now, what can Russia do to fix this? Nothing. What can Russia do? Russia can do nothing to fix it. China is right now economically more powerful than Russia. And Russia is significantly dependent on China for a variety of things. Um, so that's the situation. Now, if India becomes more powerful, it will be beneficial for Russia, because then Russia will have a more powerful ally in India. So it's complicated, and even if and so it's not about Russia wanting to fix India-China relations. It's not like we create a cozy company, cozy group. Each nation has its own interests. For Russia, China is a threat, but right now China is indispensable. But long term, they know that is going to turn on Russia. China is going to turn on Russia in the next 5 years. Okay, that's going to happen, and Russia knows this. So if China is going to turn on Russia and start threatening Russia and creating problems for Russia in 5 years, why would Russia want to fix India-China relations? Even if it could, it doesn't make sense. Okay, Fast Snail says, when and how did Russia become a Christian nation? Interesting question. So the Slavic people, the Russian people are Slavic people, right? It's an ethnic group. Who are the world's Slavic peoples? The Russians, the ethnic Russians are Slavs. The Ukrainians are Slavs. The Serbs are Slavs. Okay, so that's how it is. So the Slavic people historically were followers of the old Indo-European religion. The old Indo-European religion is this religion that was found all across Europe in different manifestations, which is nothing but a different form of the Vedic religion. Okay, that's what it was. Now over time, you had, for example, when you had the European king Charlemagne, he lived in the first millennium, the last half of the first millennium AD. What was it, 800 AD, 900 AD? Let's quickly take a look at that. He did the Northern Crusades, very brutal crusades. Let's see. Charlemagne. He was also called Carolus Magnus. He was a king of the Franks. Yeah, 774, king of the Franks, 778, died 814 AD. So the second half of the first millennium AD. And he did this Northern Crusades. He was pretty brutal, massacres and whatnot. And he converted a lot of people forcibly to Christianity. So Christianity, the conversion of people to Christianity became this great pan-European project of the church. And over time, various parts of Europe were converted to Christianity. The further you were from Rome, the longer it took for the conversion to happen. So the Vikings were doing raids in the British Isles from the 8th to 11th centuries, and it ended with the defeat of Harald the Hardrada in 1066 AD. And after that, the Vikings became Christianized. Their great tree Yggdrasil was cut down. Uppsala was vandalized. The temple in Uppsala was vandalized, destroyed, I'm sure, replaced with a church, and it was all brutal. Now, Russia as a nation has a history of maybe 1,000 years. With the Kievan Rus, who were of Viking origin. And when did they become Christian, the Kievan Rus? Probably about 1,000 years or 900 years ago. Were they already Christian by the time? Probably 800, 900 years before today. And there are parts of Russia where Christianity came only in the last 200-300 years. And there are parts of Russia where people still practice, let's say, hybrid Christianity with very old pre-Christian traditions intermixed. Yeah. And the form of Christianity you have in Russia is Orthodox Christianity, which is very similar to the Greek form of Christianity, which is Orthodox Christianity. So it's been a process, and it's not like Russia became Christian nation like that all at once. Various parts of Russia were converted to Christianity by force in various centuries. And there were people, who were burned alive because they would not convert to Christianity. That happened, 400, 500, 600 years before today. So it's been a long process over the past roughly 900 or 1,000 years. And still, even today, there are some Christians who are recent converts, and they still practice elements of their pre-Christian culture. You know, uh, there is this god called Triglav, Triglav god, Slavic mythology, Triglav. So Triglav in mythology is a three-headed god. Okay, what are the names of the three heads? Um, let's see. Vision. Okay, in Indo-European mythologies, dark gods have a vision problem. Odin, Velnias, Varuna. Who is Varuna? As you can see, Triglav, Slavic god, three-headed god. So this god Triglav essentially is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. That's what he is. And this god was worshipped until pretty recently in some parts of Russia. So it's been a long process. All right. Fast Snail says Musk attributes his son's name to S. Chandrasekhar, Subramaniam Chandrasekhar. Which son? He's got lots of sons, right? He's got like 11, 12 kids. I'm not sure which son it could be, but interesting. Musk, Subramaniam Chandrasekhar. Let's see. Let's Google it. Elon Musk son Chandra. Let us see. Shivon. Okay, Shivon. His partner Shivon Zilis, who is half Indian. Okay, one of their twins has the middle name Shekhar, honoring Subramaniam Chandrasekhar. Okay, interesting, fantastic, interesting. Yeah, so he has two children with this lady, right? Shivon Zilis. Shivon Zilis, I believe her mother was Indian, so she's half Indian. And yeah, okay, so one of their kids has the middle name Shekhar. Okay, interesting. Aries Manticore says, I think something interesting is happening across Europe and Asia. Christianity is creeping back slowly within the Gen Z men, and Gen Z hyper liberalism is increasing among the women. Engineered? Engineered as well as a reaction. Look, what's happening in Europe. Forget about the US for now, for a minute. Let's talk about Europe. In Europe, what's happening is that there is an invasion that's being engineered of Europe. An invasion of Europe by people, by young military age males who come from specific nations and who have a specific religion. That invasion of Europe is being engineered by the European Union. And some nations that don't want to accept these immigrants, they have to pay protection money essentially to Brussels, a sum of multiple millions of dollars every year, so that they don't have to accept migrants. So the immigration is horribly damaging to European societies. And if a nation doesn't want the immigration, they have to pay money to Brussels, which is like paying the local gunda so that the gunda doesn't come and beat you up. That sort of thing. So that's what's happening. Now, most nations in the EU, they are being forced to accept this immigration. And this immigration is causing a reaction in European society. And the young males are getting radicalized. And that's why they are going back to Christianity. Right? Gen Z young men, etc. And hyper-liberalism is increasing among women. I think, men and women, they have very different psyches, very different the way they see the world, etc. It's pretty different for men and women. So maybe this women are more susceptible to liberalism. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like that. Yeah. So there's this polarization of society that's happening. Men are becoming more radicalized. They're becoming more traditional. They are going back to Christianity, and women are becoming hyper liberal, that sort of thing. And maybe in the US also, you are seeing more of that now. Now that the Biden regime is over and Trump is back, and Trump is more of a conservative. And now that this wokeism is now kind of on the back burner in the US to a certain extent, it is you are seeing this resurgence of slightly more traditional values, in at least in some sections of society, mainly among young men. Yeah, so partly engineered, partly backlash, and partly natural. Narendra Reddy says, what's with recent rise in hate on Indians online. We've discussed this so many times. Um, it's engineered, right? It's been engineered since February 2022. In February 2022, Russia launched the special military operation on Ukraine. And the West, the US, expected India to toe its line. They expected India to participate in US and Western sanctions on Russia. They expected India to condemn the invasion and decouple from Russia. And India did the exact opposite. And that's why there was this big backlash against India, this outpouring of hatred towards India, which was manufactured on social media. It starts with all the big media outlets like the BBC, like the CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, putting out daily articles castigating India and raking India over the coals. Then you have think tanks like Rand Corporation, and God knows how many think tanks, all putting out anti-India articles. And then there was this concerted campaign on social media of demonizing India and all kinds of nasty things about India being said by bots, anonymous accounts. And that has continued since 2022. It's been what, more than 3.5 years. So over time, that compounds, and that's why it is now very fashionable, really fashionable to hate on Indians and be racist against Indians online. And then you have the Chinese and the Pakistanis piling in. So you have all these, accounts on X and whatnot, which are super hateful towards Indians. And now that X is making it mandatory to show your region, you will see all those accounts based in so-called South Asia. So you can choose your country or region. If you don't want to say Pakistan, you have to say South Asia. So when it says South Asia, it's either Bangladesh or Pakistan. So it's a bunch of Pakistani and Bangladeshi accounts who have been masquerading as Indians, who are now saying they are South Asians. And they're all anti-India accounts. And the Chinese also are involved in this. So that's why there is this massive hate against Indians online. Neil says, your thoughts on 3i Atlas alien possibilities? I don't believe it's an alien thing. I have seen no evidence of that. None whatsoever. Rahul says, shed some light on Devadasi propaganda. I don't have sufficient information about this. What I know is that these were temple dancers, and eventually some kind of distortion of the historical facts happened because of the missionaries and the British, but I don't know what the details are, so I can't say. Sorry. Aris Manticore says, you need not be discouraged about the horrendous education system and declining culture. Our civilization will evolve and survive in its own unique way by sheer necessity enforced by the public. I really hope so. I am a very optimistic person. It is very hard to discourage me. So I will follow your instructions and I will not be discouraged. So thank you so much for the encouragement and for reminding me not to be discouraged. Thank you very much. Ankita ji says, question by Anamalai in Yamraj. Sydney attack, what's going on? How to stop such attacks in India? Sydney attack, it happened today, right? Bondi Beach, an iconic beach in Sydney. Probably Sydney. And there was some kind of Jewish, I don't know, festival, was it? Some kind of Jewish event was there at the beach. And it looks like a bunch of Pakistanis came with weapons, rifles or something, and they apparently shot a lot of people. I don't know how many people have been shot. I don't know how many casualties may or may not have happened. Let's quickly take a look at what's happened. Yeah, let's see. Bondi Beach beach attack. Okay, so do we have? Okay, there we have this. It's already there. Wikipedia article. Okay, Hanukkah celebration hosted by the Chabad of Bondi, and 12 people were killed. Good Lord, including one of the two shooters. The second shooter is in custody. Okay, do the shooters have names? Let's see. Okay, we know what Bondi Beach is. 2 men, pump action, shotguns, bolt action rifle, red dot sight. One of the shooters, blah, blah, blah. Response, casualties, assailants, 2 men dressed, etc. Killing 1 gunman. The other one is shot and taken in critical condition. What are the names? What are their names? I would like to know the names. Various nations. Prime Minister Modi offered condolences. Beach shooting. I am pretty sure at least one of these 2 gunmen was of Pakistani origin. So yeah, okay. So that's what's happened. Looks like there have been casualties, sadly. Um, what's going on? Well, there is this great hatred towards Jews from people who belong to certain countries, and that's why this has happened, right? And the Western world, see, Australia is part of the Western world, even though it's in Oceania. The Western world has been very, somehow likes these people very much. People from certain countries, especially Pakistan. So they are importing them, and this is the consequence of that. So that's what's going on. It's terrible. It's tragic that these gunmen have shot people. How to stop such attacks in India? By being constantly vigilant. There's no solution, no other solution. Be constantly vigilant. That's the only thing, sadly. Vinayak Nayak says, big admirer of knowledge. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Could you please share your insights on Odisha's history, particularly the role of the Khandayats community in shaping it? I don't know anything, sadly, about the Khandayats community. There are thousands of these very interesting communities all across India with their own rich and deep history going back, I don't know how many centuries, how many thousands of years. But I don't know about this particular community, so I can't say. But yeah, Odisha's history, I've spoken about this at great length on multiple occasions. Great history, glorious history of Odisha. Odisha, it is Odisha, it's the people of Odisha that Indianized Southeast Asia, that that took Indian culture to Southeast Asia. The people of Odisha, the people of Kalinga were trading with Suvarna Bhumi, which is Southeast Asia, from at least 3,000 years before today, at least 1000 BC, most likely before that. And to trade, they had to cross the so-called Bay of Bengal, the Kalinga Sagar. You can't cross that with small boats. They used big ships for that. So that once again is an example of how ancient our seafaring, our maritime traditions are. India is the world's oldest maritime civilization. So the people of Odisha, of Kalinga, would cross the ocean, go to Suvarnabhumi, trade with them, and this happened for centuries and centuries and centuries. Eventually, the whole of Southeast Asia became Indianized. They absorbed our culture, our religion, our civilizational traditions, not through force, but just by constant interaction. Yeah. So if you had Hinduism all across Southeast Asia, Indonesia, etc., it's thanks to the great people of Odisha. So that's just one small aspect of the history of Kalinga. So much more, of course. Hani Sharma says 21 million gave cat this year and want to get 21M. Okay, you're 21 male. You're male, you're 21 years old. I gave the cat this year and won't get the college I desire. I'll give it next week. If I make it, then I'll be 25 when I'm out of college. Then education loan, want to travel the world before getting married. I'll be 28 by then. Is it too old? This is the dilemma everybody has. All young people have. So you gave cat this year, did not get the college you want, you desired. You will give it next year. If you get it by next year, then you'll be 25 by the time you're out of the college. Then there's an education loan that you will have to take for going through college. Then you want to travel the world before getting married. So let's say you travel the world for 3 years, you'll be 28, and then by then, is it too old to get married? I would say, look, let's say hopefully you get the college you desire next year. You're 25 by the time you're out of the college. I would say you get married and travel the world. I know it'll cost more, but it'll be a better experience perhaps. Or maybe you have, okay, it's up to you. It's up to you what you want to do with life. Is 28 too old to get married? A little old, I would say. But there are people who get married in the 30s and have good lives. So it depends. From my perspective, I urge all young people to get married at the earliest, before 25. When you will be in your 40s, you will realize I was right. At this time, you may think I'm not. So I would urge everybody to get married by the time you're 25 or something. But if you want to get married by 28, I don't think it's too late. It's entirely up to you. So all the best, sir. Do well. Yeah, I hope you get the college you desire next year. And go follow your dreams and ambitions and do well in life. All the best. I don't think 28 is too late. Right? Okay. Ritik Pawar says, is it possible for humans to destroy Earth into debris. No, we don't have that power yet. We don't have the Death Star like in Star Trek. It's not possible for humans to destroy the Earth into bits. No, we don't have the power. Rajat says we have GTRE, the Gas Turbine Research Establishment. We have DRDO, Defense Research Development Organization. We have Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. What has stopped India from manufacturing its own jet in the past 40 years? We are begging for engines. Where is the technology gap? Yeah, we have all these fantastic organizations. What have they been doing? Some of the blame lies with the organizations. Some of the blame lies with the government. For example, if you see DRDO, DRDO was founded, what, 1958? It was founded the same year as DARPA, DARPA, DARPA. DARPA is the United States version of DRDO. And DARPA has given the US some of the greatest technological breakthroughs in human history, stealth technology, and so much more. DARPA. DARPA was founded in 1958, DRDO also 1958. DARPA today has about double the budget of DRDO. Not 10 times, not 100 times, only double. So DRDO has a similar budget as DARPA. But DARPA has 150 employees or people working for DARPA. 150. DRDO has about 20,000, 30,000. That's the difference. And out of those 20,000, 30,000 employees that DRDO has, 5,000 are scientists. So why are 25,000 non-scientists working for DRDO? This is how we sabotage ourselves. I don't know what DRDO's. Okay, let's find. Let's do this right now. Yeah, DRDO. Let's see. DRDO founded which year? 1950. See, I was right. 1958. What is the budget? Annual budget is 3.2 billion for DRDO, and I was right. 30,000 employees with 5,000 scientists. So what are 25,000 non-scientists doing with this money that is scientific budget and R&D budget? This is how we mess everything up. Why are 25,000 non-scientists leeching off that money? This is the problem in India. We mess everything up by design. Everything is designed wrong. And then how will anything happen? And then you have administrators and managers and bureaucrats telling each employee what to do. They will report to one guy who will report to another guy who will report to another guy. This detailed pyramidal structure, hierarchical structure. In DARPA, there's no hierarchy. 150 people work for DARPA and they get the entirety of the budget. Not a single non-scientist gets any of the budget of DARPA. Let's see DARPA also, since we saw DRDO. So when was DARPA established? I checked DRDO. DARPA was established when? 1958. See, I was right once again. How many employees do they have? 220. Okay, not 150, 220. Annual budget 4.122 billion, which is like double roughly of DRDO. But think about what DARPA has given to the US, the technological breakthroughs DARPA has given to the US, and think about what DRDO has done. Has DRDO since 1958 produced a single groundbreaking world-class technology? No. All we are doing is trying to replicate what the West did 20, 30 years ago. That's all. And it's not like the scientists are bad, the engineers are bad. They can only do what they are told to do. They can't take up a project they want to take up because it's good for the country. They can only work on projects that are sanctioned from all the way up. And that vision comes from politicians. So look, these are the problems. And that's why we are still begging for engines. You see the problems? The problems are designed into the system. If there are problems, the problems are part of the design. Whoever designed this, they introduced problems knowingly into the system. And we are just continuing that year after year after year, decade after decade. What are we doing? I just don't get it. Okay. Animesh says, any great movies you'd recommend that come to mind? Any great movies? I should make a list of movie recommendations, maybe 50 movies or something. Great movies. Look, Some of the greatest movies of all time are from the 20th century. In compared to today's movies, you may think these are quite slow. For example, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. One of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my entire life. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Good God, what a great movie it is. But you may find it slow. You want action and explosions every 2 minutes, it's not for you. But if you want a true experience, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Seven Samurai, movies by Akira Kurosawa, Japanese director. When I was a small kid, I had this movie came out, Kagemusha. I never saw it, but I should see it. I'm not sure how good it was, but it's a Kurosawa movie. So movies by Sergio Leone, movies that star Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, outstanding movies from the 1960s, 70s, perhaps even 80s. They were getting old. Bud Spencer, Terence Hill were Italian actors actually. I love Jim Carrey movies. I love comedy movies. The Mask, The Godfather 1 and 2, the Star Wars trilogy, the original one, not the later one. The greatest science fiction movie in the past 20 years, 25 years is Interstellar. I hated Arrival. Arrival is a art movie trying to pretend to be a science fiction movie. Garbage. I didn't like it at all. Not garbage, well made, very cinematic, very well produced movie, etc. But they don't do anything for me. I loved Interstellar. Great. So maybe I should make a separate list for that. Yeah. Aries Manticore says, I think they are geoengineering a radical Muslim population in the West on purpose to radicalize their own citizens towards soft authoritarianism. National socialism is rising fast, especially in the United States. That could potentially, perhaps, explain some of what's happening in the Western world, in Europe, in the United States. Yeah, maybe. Geoengineering. Maybe it's social engineering more than geoengineering, but it has the geo element too. Of course, it's happening over a wide geographical expanse, let's say. Indeed. Aries Manticore says, hi, sir. Lately you seem exhausted. Please take care. I seem exhausted. See, lately I've been doing very extended sessions. Usually I used to do these 2-hour sessions. Now you can see it's 2 hours, 53 minutes. You speak for 3, 4. I've done 4-hour sessions. I've done 6-hour session. I did one almost 9-hour session. So you do those very lengthy sessions sitting in one place, you're gonna be a little tired eventually. But anyway, thank you so much for the concern. I do take care. And yeah, thank you. Abhinav says, why doesn't the US force all its vassals like the EU, Japan, South Korea to impose sanctions on India if it wants to contain India's rise? Well, have you heard of Mexico? Mexico has recently imposed tariffs on India. Let's see. They will do it in a phased manner, not all at once. You see, Mexico tariff on India. There we have it. Check it out. Mexico has imposed 50% tariffs on Indian goods. Would you believe it? Mexico is a friendly nation. Nothing explains this except that Mexico has been pressurized into doing this by the Trump regime. So anyway, it's not like we have a huge amount of trade with Mexico, but this is what the US is doing. It's not like Mexico suddenly decided I'll impose tariffs on India. Mexico and India have a friendly relationship, good relationship. The Americans, the Trump regime, have forced Mexico to do this. So they may do this vis-a-vis other nations also. They may ask European nations to do that. They may ask Japan, South Korea, perhaps. So wherever India has significant, substantial amount of trade, they could force their vassals to do that in those cases. Yeah. Rajat says, what does it mean that identical fermions cannot have the same state? How does it affect atoms and matter? See, in quantum mechanics, there is something called quantum statistics. And there's Bose-Einstein statistics and Fermi-Dirac statistics. Particles, so fundamental particles or subatomic particles that follow Bose-Einstein statistics are called bosons. And particles that follow Fermi-Dirac statistics are called fermions. Bosons have integer spins. What's spin? Well, when we think of spin, we think of this, right? this, that. Well, you can think of it that way, but quantum spin is something different. It's not exactly particle spinning, but yeah, let's think of it that way. So bosons have integer spin, and fermions have half integer spin, and fermions follow the Pauli exclusion principle. And we don't know where it comes from, what causes it. Okay, but what the Pauli exclusion principle says, that you have energy levels in bound states in quantum mechanics, and the Pauli exclusion principle says that no two identical fermions can occupy the same energy level in a quantum system. So think of it as a quantum system, like let's say the hydrogen atom. The hydrogen atom has two elements. One is the nucleus, which is simply one proton, and the other one is the electron that orbits the proton. Think of it very crudely and incorrectly as the moon orbiting the earth. It's not like that, but you can think of it like that, just for the sake of understanding. So that's what you have: a electron going around a neutron, a proton. Now the electron can occupy various energy levels. Now if you have a more complex atom with, let's say, 50 electrons or whatever, then each electron will have a certain energy state. And electrons are fermions. Protons, neutrons, electrons are fermions. So electrons, if it is in an excited state, higher energy state, then it's gonna affect the mass and the energy configuration of the atom. And the point is that when it comes to the lowest energy state in the atom, it's going to be only one electron that's going to be there. So the point is that what this says, what the Pauli exclusion principle, what the effect it has is that matter occupies space. Okay, so when you try to squeeze an atom, there is going to be a pressure outwards that comes from the Pauli exclusion principle. Because no matter how hard you squeeze, the Pauli exclusion principle ensures that no two identical fermions can be in the same state, the same energy state, which is why matter is spaced out. And that's why matter occupies space. You see, why does this ball occupy space? Because of the Pauli exclusion principle. Why do our physical bodies occupy actual space? The Pauli exclusion principle. And you can make jokes out of it, but I will not do those here. Okay, Abhijit is saying, thank you very much, sir. You did this yesterday also. You gifted memberships. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's doing this. Abhijit Singh ji, thank you very much for gifting memberships to our viewers. That is so kind of you. I really appreciate that, sir. Rahul Lack says, have you read or watched The Expanse? I haven't watched it or read it. Brief review, comments, opinion on the science and politics of it. I haven't watched it. I would love to watch so many of these science fiction, another series, but I just don't have the time. So I haven't seen it, I haven't watched it, I haven't read it. So I won't be able to comment on that. But I've heard it's interesting. Well, let's see what is the IMDb rating of that. The Expanse. Let's see. Expanse. So The Expanse came out in which year? 2019. It's got 8.5 on IMDb, which is outstanding. Does it have a diverse cast? Does it have a strong female lead? I don't know about that, but it looks like it's interesting. But I haven't had the time to watch it. It's available on Prime Video, apparently. Okay. Haven't read it, seen it or read it. Sorry. Niall Singha is a new member. Thank you so much, sir, for becoming a member. Let us all welcome Niall Singha ji to the membership of the channel. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it very much. Biju Saikia says, is China hiding its economic crisis? I don't know. I'm not sure. Is China hiding an economic crisis? Does it have a crisis? See, its GDP doesn't seem to be growing very fast anymore. It's stuck at $18 trillion, roughly, thereabouts. But is there a major crisis that's brewing in the Chinese economy? Is it hiding that? I am not quite sure about that. Not quite sure about that. Critical returns says finite Hilbert space imply time ends at heat death. I'm not sure Hilbert space has something to do with time. The time is yeah. The question essentially is about time, right? When does time begin? When does time end? That's what you're asking. And the heat death of the universe, does time end there? Yeah, we don't know about time. Time is the biggest mystery. And even in quantum mechanics that you're referring to, time is an external parameter. It's an external parameter. It's a classical parameter. It's not a quantum parameter. It's not an observable. Is it an observable? Position and momentum are observables, right? Time is not an observable. No, time is an external parameter. It's a classical parameter. So time, quantum mechanics cannot explain time. It does not. It's not in a position to explain time right now. There are some theories that say that time emerges. It's an emergent phenomenon. It emerges from quantum entanglement, etc. But that's theory. There's no actual experimental evidence of that. So we don't have an answer about time right now. Does time end at heat death? Does it have something to do with Hilbert space? No, we don't have the answers. Rajat says, as asked by you, Vedantic definition of consciousness is it's that which is different from things which are known and unknown to mind. It's that which is different from things which are known and unknown to mind. It's I first thought it's philosophical, but it's the most scientific answer. Scientific. Okay, I'll think about it. Is it philosophical or is it scientific? A scientific definition of something means it's something that's physical. See, in science, let's come to the subset of science that we're dealing with physics. In physics, something, when you say something, that something has to be observable, quantifiable, measurable. Now, is consciousness observable, quantifiable, measurable? It's not. So I'm not sure this is a scientific or physical answer. This is definitely philosophical. It's an interesting definition. It's that which is different from things which are known and unknown to mind. But when we are dealing with knowns and unknowns, it's not very, very scientific. That's how I see it. I'll have to think about it a little more, because this is a very interesting definition. I'll revisit this. But well, thank you for sharing this. This is definitely interesting, very interesting. I will spend some time thinking about this. Maybe I'll get back to you about this in a future episode. Thank you. Okay. Prelt P says, thought on quest for love book. Why Indian people are not responsible, independent like we see in either Asian countries, although all colonized. Quest for love book. What is that? Quest for love book. Let's see. Quest for love book. What is that? Good God. Oh God. I'm not sure this is going to be my favorite thing to read ever. Anneke Lucas. Who is this? Is this a real thing? Anneke Lucas is blah, etc. Oh God, this will be harrowing to read. I don't think I am going to read this thing. This is, look, I like as much positivity in my life as possible. I know you have to read and learn about the world and all, but I don't think this is something I would ever want to read. So yeah, I haven't read it. I was not aware of this, and I don't think I'm going to read this. It's not what I need at this point in time or ever. I know these things exist, and there's a lot of horrible stuff in the world. So sadly. Yeah, but whoever that lady is, I'm sorry for whatever she went through. I wish her well, but I'm not going to be reading that. Yeah, sorry. Why are Indian people not responsible, independent like we see in other Asian countries, even though all were colonized? Different forms of colonization, different time periods of colonization. When we say colonization, we mean foreign occupation. Now, India has been under foreign occupation for 1,000 years. Okay, the Turkic occupation starts on the northwestern fringes of India, and it eventually came all the way into other parts of India. So all of India was not under foreign occupation 1,000 years ago, but it starts about 1,000 years ago. And then further north you go, the more mentally colonized people are. This is something many people will observe. But not necessarily that the further south you go, the less mentally colonized people are. It depends on so many different factors. But when a culture is under foreign occupation for 1,000 years, It's going to have deep scars. It's going to leave behind deep scars. And we have introduced a very poisonous thing in our system, which is the colonial education system that was crafted by the English. And we still continue that. So we have been indoctrinating and brainwashing generation after generation of Indians for about since about what, the 1860s, 1870s, and we are still doing that today. It's been what, 150, 160 years, more than 160 years. So that's why generation after generation the same system is being used to brainwash and mentally colonize and indoctrinate our people. That's why we are so the way we are, incapable of thinking independently. Indians are like goddamned sheep. The moment you show independent thinking, they will all descend upon you with their parroting the thoughts from their teachers and textbooks. It's so sad to see Indians relying on dogma. Dogma, like Steve Jobs once said in some address, dogma is nothing but the product of other people's thinking. Dogma is the result of other people's thinking. Every idea that most Indians express is the result of other people's thinking. They don't have original ideas and thoughts. That's what the system has done to Indians. That's why they are like this. The system is designed to turn Indians into zombies in this manner. And this is what we tom as the great, wonderful new education policy. Yes, there have been some little small changes that are good, this change of syllabus, etc. But the overall system is still based on rote memorization and absolute obedience and third-rate teachers. What will change? Nothing. King Ritwik says, middle-aged people are taking trips to Ladakh and Sikkim because of height of mountains. They suffer from breathlessness. Precautions they should take. You have to be careful going to Ladakh. Sikkim is not that high. Ladakh is super, super high. What precautions do you have to take? First of all, if you're a smoker, don't go to Ladakh. You're going to regret it. Okay? Secondly, you will need to ensure that you have good cardiovascular health, good lung capacity, and you need to have good endurance. If you have these qualities, then you will be able to survive Ladakh and tolerate the high altitude. See, what happens at high altitude is that there is less oxygen. So your cardiovascular efficiency needs to be high in order to be able to tolerate this. When you are at high altitudes, even your vehicles perform poorly because your vehicles need oxygen for combustion. So if you have a four-wheel drive SUV that performs at has a certain horsepower rating at sea level, you take it to Ladakh, it's going to be like 1/3 of that or something. I mean, it's going to be way less than what it is at sea level. It's gonna, when you drive, you'll feel it's much weaker than what it is. The same applies to us, human beings, our respiration. So the precautions you should take is, if you are a smoker, don't go to Ladakh. If you have any breathing issues, don't go to Ladakh. If you are reasonably healthy, but you're overweight or whatever, then I'm not saying lose weight, just, work on your endurance. Go for, practice jogging like 30 minutes a day for a couple of months before you go to Ladakh. That should ensure that there's no issues. If you have diabetes, if you have any pre-existing health conditions, I would recommend don't go to Ladakh. You need to be strong, sturdy, and healthy to go to Ladakh. I went to Ladakh a couple of years ago with like three young guys who were part of my team, and one guy who's 20. I'm climbing a monastery, and that guy is like all dizzy and has to sit down. So even young people will face issues if you are not careful when you go to Ladakh. So my point is, and there is this one pill. I don't remember what it's called, but if you take that one pill, that pill, then you will not be that susceptible to altitude sickness or something. I'm not sure what the pill is called, but you can look it up. I've never taken it, but I think it helps. It helps. So yeah, do some research. If you're reasonably healthy, make sure that your endurance is good, your lung power is good, your cardiovascular system is in good shape. Practice jogging 20-30 minutes a day for a couple of months before you go there, and take the pill. Ask your travel agent for what pill it is, or look it up online. Right? All right. All the best. Ananta Subramaniam says, "What key lessons of history do most people miss?" Didn't I take this question about a couple of hours ago? Same person, I think. We've taken this question, sir. Well, we've taken this question. Maybe I'll expand upon this in a future video or something. Yeah, it's definitely like it's certainly a very interesting and very important topic. But I did speak about this a while ago, a couple of hours ago. We are like 3 hours, 10 minutes into this episode. In the first hour or so, I took it. Okay, Aries Manticore says, I came across mathematical research focused on proving that the selfish gene theory to be false. Will AI be used to accelerate evolution for, say, life extension or interstellar adaptation? What's my take? Okay, selfish gene theory. I haven't read Dawkins and his work. It's Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, selfish gene. Let me see. Gene. Richard Dawkins. Yeah, I am not a big fan of all this popular science crap. I haven't read this book. Yeah. If I read science, I actually read research papers and go deeper into things. Anyway, so I am not sure about this selfish gene, what the theory is, what the book is about. And so I won't be able to comment about that. Now, will AI be used to accelerate evolution for various things? Yes, certainly. You can accelerate evolution through genetic engineering. For example, you can create customized babies. When your baby is an embryo, you can do some genetic engineering, genetic modification using maybe CRISPR or something, and create a super baby with all the best genetic advantages you can possibly have through genetic engineering. And you can use AI to do genetic engineering better than you can do it right now. So it's definitely AI is definitely going to be used in genetic engineering to target specific genes and to introduce specific traits in your offspring and future organisms and so on. It can also be used for genetic warfare using gene drives and whatnot. So it's going to have all kinds of applications in genetics for sure. So that when you edit your genes and you pass that on to the next generation, you are interfering in the process of evolution. And it can be said that you are selectively you are selecting the direction in which evolution goes, and you are accelerating the process of evolution, because it would not have happened naturally. Yeah. Gajapati Deva says, have you read Delimitation by Professor Desi Raju? Views. I have read the book Delimitation by Professor Desi Raju. I've had him on a podcast in which we have discussed the book. My views, I think it's a very good book. What Professor Desi Raju suggests is very good. He's suggesting that he's recommending that India should have 75 states instead of the number of states that we have today. I pretty much agree with what he says. I would take it one step further. I would say maybe we need to have 100 states. I'm not sure what is the right number. 75 seems to be a good number. And that would have all kinds of benefits like better governance, better administration, better access to power for ordinary people, and so much more. So yeah, it's a great book. It's a great recommendation, and it'll be great if it happens. Yeah. Chirag Srinath says, I have always wondered why do rich people and countries always turn socialistic after getting rich, and they want to entrench the same bad behavior that led them to being poor. See, how does a society become rich? A society becomes rich when it is lean, when it is deprived of things, and when it is strongly desirous of a better lifestyle, of better living standards, of better circumstances. So when you are living in hardship, that's when you have the highest motivation, day after day after day. You don't need to look for motivation. It's all around you. You are very uncomfortable, you are very unhappy, so you have the greatest motivation to escape that. So that's how you work really hard and you become powerful and rich. Once you are rich, you become soft. You enjoy the fruits of your labor. Subsequent generations don't understand what the previous generations had to go through. so that the nation could become rich, right? They are born into luxury. They are born into wealth, and they think that that's how things should be. And that's when, so they are born into an era where there are no problems in the nation, no real problems in the nation. But the human mind is such that we seek some struggle in life to give us meaning. Without struggle, life has no meaning. Without problems to solve, life seems meaningless. So we look for problems. Then we look at small problems, social stratification, social status, and some people have less wealth than us, and we should make everybody equal, and all that nonsense comes from there. So that's what happens. And that's why we have imperial cycles. Empires come, rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall. Always happens because of this process. See, and that's an issue. But it's part of human nature. Looks like we can't escape that. Okay. Kiki Sushant. Well, thank you very much, sir, for your contribution. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Fast Snail says, I admire how you can switch context and answer questions spontaneously. I need some tips for job interviews where I fail to convince, but I know the answer. You have to practice. You know the answer, but you haven't practiced answering it. You have to first of all anticipate all the googlies they can throw at you. In American parlance, they say curveballs. In Indian parlance, we'll say googlies. You have to be able to anticipate all the tricks that can spring upon you as interviewers. And then you need to practice. Have somebody play the role of interviewer, give them a list of all the tough questions, all the questions you expect, all the unexpected questions, and have them interview you over and over and over again. And practice your delivery. Practice giving the right answer. You know the answer, but maybe the first time you did not give it properly in the practice session. So then think about how you could have done better. Then do another practice session in which you do a better job. You do it over and over again, maybe 10, 20 times. You do the process of the mock interviews. Then you're going to be confident. And ask your friends not to be very friendly to you. Ask them to be, that sort of thing. So put yourself in that situation, in a situation that will be very similar to the actual interview. That's what you do. And in case you don't have friends who will do this for you, well, practice in front of a mirror. In case you don't have privacy, do it at night or whatever. Find a way. Go to the forest and talk to the trees like Abraham Lincoln used to do. So the point is practice, practice, practice. Then it becomes natural and spontaneous. All right. All the best, sir. Fast Snail. Prashant Sharma says, Bondi Beach incident, what will leftists say now? Terrible, horrible, tragic, ghastly, unacceptable incident. I have no idea what the leftists will say. The leftists will still say that let's import more Pakistanis. I'm sure. Australian leftists, right? And leftists across the world will say that, you know what, Pakistan is still a peaceful and nice nation. So they will not change their attitude, their behavior, their approach. But we know what Pakistan is. Looks like at least one of the gunmen was a Pakistani. Looks like that. So my question is, why is the government of Australia importing Pakistanis, and especially Pakistanis who are prone to such activities, actions? I don't get it. Terrible. Horrible. So it's terrible that this thing has happened. Unfortunately, it looks like there have been some casualties. Just bad, terrible, avoidable. Hyphen says, I grew up in India. I moved to the UK when I was 18. I'm a truck driver in the UK, but not comfortable driving in India anymore. Always wondered how our traffic and driving problems can be solved. Look, so you drive in the UK. In the UK, in any Western country, you're going to have traffic rules that are followed. You're going to have high quality road surfaces. No bumps and craters and potholes. You won't have that. It's unheard of, even in the countryside. And for people that break the traffic rules, etc., there's always consequences, right? In India, we don't have that. In India, when you go for the driving test to get your license, they're gonna grill you about the rules, traffic rules and driving rules and whatnot, regulations and so on. The moment you get your license, you can forget about that, because nobody follows any traffic rules. Go outside of your house, no matter where you are in India, And if you are wondering what the problem in India is, go out and look at the traffic. Does anybody follow traffic rules? Nobody does. So that's the number one problem. There's no enforcement. It's not that people don't want to follow traffic rules. It's that people over generations have not been policed and enforced. The traffic rules have not been enforced. So people just drive. And yet you don't have those many accidents that you would expect because of whatever reasons. So firstly, there is no enforcement of traffic rules. Secondly, you have terrible roads in many parts of India, right? So how can all these problems be solved? First, through proper enforcement of the rules. Second, consequences for those who break the rules. Third, by improving the surfaces, the quality of the roads, by having a uniform standard across the country and a high standard, not a low standard, right? The solutions are pretty simple, but implementing those, well, it can be implemented across the country in 2-3 years, but looks like it's not high on the list of priorities for the powers that be. UMX Glow Haha says, how is air quality index calculated? Is the air really that bad here? I am not sure how the air quality index is calculated. I have never looked into it. So I could start looking into it, but it'll take time. But I'm sure there's a standard way of calculating it. Is the air really that bad in India? Not all across India. You go to different parts of India, you will have different kinds of air quality. But yeah, in certain parts of India, like during the winter time in northern India, there's terrible air quality. You can see that. I mean, whenever I land in Delhi, when it's in winter, starting from October, November, typically November onwards, all the way to February, the moment you land, before you land, you can see it. When you're flying, you can see there's a clear, separate layer of haze all the way down. And above that, about 10 kilometers up, there is blue sky. So once the aircraft reaches an altitude of 8-9 kilometers above the surface, that's when you see that you are above the layer of haze. That layer of haze is just smoke. And when you are flying above the Delhi region in the darkness, you can see fires dotting the landscape, fires that are lit by farmers, apparently. So there are all these issues, And even in other parts of India, if you go to southern part of India, eastern, western, you will see a lot of haze and smoke and all that. And there are various reasons for that. India is a developing country, lots of vehicles, lots of people. That's why there's going to be all these combustion engines that are churning out, hydrocarbon emissions of various kinds. So yeah, the air quality is definitely. Even China has had all these problems, but they've solved it for Beijing. Not all across China, but for Beijing, they solved it before the 2008 Olympics. So it can be done. But if you are a developing nation, if you're growing very rapidly, pollution is going to be an issue. There's nothing you can do much about it. Okay. Tejas is a new member. Thank you very much, Tejas. Good to have you as a member. Let's all welcome Tejas into the channel's membership. Thank you very much. Hani Sharma says, I meant I'll be 25 when I get out of college and 28 when I'm free with my educational loans. Then travel the world for 2 years and then get married. Traveling with a partner is too expensive, I guess. Advise me, please. Okay, you'll be 28 when you are done with repaying the education loans, and then you want to travel the world for 2 years. So you'll get married when you're 30. Well, I suppose it can work. You get married when you're 30. By the time you're 50, you will have maybe kids that are a kid that's 18. If you wait for a couple of years to have a kid. The thing about one of the reasons I say you should get married early is because you need a lot of energy to raise kids. Kids will take a lot out of you. The older you are, the less energy you have. If you have kids at the age of 40, they'll grow up. If you have one kid at the age of 40, that kid will become 18 or 20 when you're 60. You're going to have to go through a lot in that time period. But if you have a kid when you're 22, by the time you're 40, your kid is grown up. Then you can do whatever you want in life. So that's why having kids early is the best. But I suppose it works if you are 30 when you get married. Traveling with a partner is very expensive. No question about that, because it's twice the expenses. And then there's shopping and much more, as we know. Look, if you want to do this, you go for it. You'll be free from your educational loans by the time you're 28. Travel the world for a couple of years, then get married. I think it works. You can make it work. So yeah, go for it. Go for it. All the best, sir. All the best. Do well. Shivansh says, how to work with incredibly political toxic boss. Ideally, you quit, move somewhere else. But obviously, not everyone has that luxury that, you know what, if my boss is terrible, very toxic, plays politics, I just walk out and find another job. Maybe there's a scarcity of jobs, perhaps. So then what do you do? I don't know, man. I don't know. I've also dealt with toxic bosses. The best thing you do is move out, because a boss is a person who is in a position of more power than you. So either you outmaneuver them politically and get them, sideline them if you are good at politics, or you seek a better working environment. So that may not happen immediately. So maybe for a while you have to deal with it. The ideal situation is you move elsewhere. That's what I can tell you. Shivansh says, what do you think about the Escatian hypothesis? I don't know what that is. What is that? Let me quickly take a look. Escatian hypothesis. What is that? The first confirmed detection of an extraterrestrial technological civilization is most likely to be an atypical example, one that's Escatian hypothesis. I haven't read this yet. Let me take a look at this. The history of okay, I am not aware of this. I think it's reasonably interesting. Let me see the PDF. Let me download that, and I shall read it at my convenience. Thank you for pointing this out. I don't know what it's about because I haven't read it, but I will check it out. Thank you, sir. Deva 72,000 says, how can a think tank be built to foster long-term economic and foreign policy thinking to develop and develop high quality alumni who advance India's development regardless of the ruling government? For a think tank, first of all, you need to have money, because you want to employ people who will work in the think tank and produce original thinking. So you need some money. Then you need to hire the right people who have high quality original ideas. So you need money, then you need to seek out and identify the right people. Then they have to be willing to work for you for whatever money you are providing them. Then you need leadership to tell them what to do. You need leadership, you need a direction. The leadership needs to come from a person who understands the world, understands the issues, understands the problems that India is facing, and can align everybody in the direction that will be beneficial for India. Then you need a place where all this work can be published. So you have the right leadership, one person or maybe a committee of people. Then you have the money. Then you have the right people who are working for you. Let's say 10 people, 5 people. Also, we can start with this. You can even start a think tank with 3 people, 5 people, whatever, and work on a set of issues. Then you have to give them guidance about what kind of research to do, what things to work on, and in what form the output should be. It should be, ideally, you tackle a problem, you identify what the problem is, what are the root causes, what are the consequences, how is it hurting the country, how can it be resolved, and you give recommendations. And then the think tank should be able to reach out to the leadership. But here is the problem, here are the problems, here are the problems, here are the recommendations, here are the solutions. Now you need to implement that. So you need to be able to reach out. Otherwise, you're just publishing stuff, but nobody's reading it. So all of that needs to happen. That's how a think tank is built. Sometimes some people build think tanks to cater to other audiences. Maybe not for the government. Maybe for other corporate masters or something. So there are various kinds of think tanks. Would you like me to create a think tank? All right. Sid Barka says, can ChatGPT put an end to Indian entrance exams and tuition coaching mafia? I'm preparing for GMAT using it and surprised it answers all questions correctly and explains concepts really well for quantitative stuff. ChatGPT, I suspect it will do really well. I'm sure it doesn't cost a lot of money. and it will definitely cost less than the tuition coaching mafia, right? So all you have to do is you have to, I think, input the course material. So let's say, I don't know, I suppose everybody has PDF versions of course material these days. You have to just give it to ChatGPT and tell it, this chapter, explain it to me step by step. All the first section of the chapter, explain it to me in a way that I can understand, the easiest way. And then you can ask it to coach you through it, and you can ask it to test you, and then you can give the past 5-10 years sample question papers and ask it to test you on that. So I suppose you can replace all your tutors, etc., with ChatGPT. It's definitely possible that ChatGPT can replace all your tutors, all your coaching mafia, etc. The thing about a tutor is that, when you have ChatGPT, you are self-motivated. So you have to make sure that you study a certain amount of hours every day. But when you have a tutor who you go to, then that much study is done, and it's a little more automatic. So pros and cons, but ChatGPT can definitely replace any tutor today. Abhirup Sarkar says, any suggestions for overthinking? I don't see it bad enough from introspection. Don't see it bad though from introspection and unlearning perspective, especially coming from a troubled childhood. Suggestions for overthinking? Well, look, first of all, I'll tell you that I am not somebody who overthinks. So it's not something, if I tell you something, if I give you some kind of recommendation, it's not from personal experience. I don't overthink. Or maybe what is overthinking? I think constantly. My mind is always working, it's always thinking something or the other. But it doesn't harm me, hurt me, or burden me or anything. I think every human brain works all the time, right? You're always thinking something or the other. But for some people, it becomes a problem, it becomes a burden when maybe you have negative thought patterns or something. So if you have positive thought patterns, it's not going to hurt you, harm you at all, ever. But if your thought patterns are negative, you focusing on things you can't control all the time, you think about the same thing in a loop over and over again. So it's not the fact that you're thinking all the time, it's the fact that your thought patterns are negative and harmful. So that is when it becomes a burden on you. So my suggestion would probably be, I mean, you should actually consult a professional for this, but I suspect that overthinking is actually negative and harmful thought patterns that don't give you any benefits, but have lots of drawbacks and cause more trouble than they do good for you. So you have to break out of those thought patterns and replace them with more constructive and better thought patterns that will actually be beneficial for you. That's what I imagine. It's not a problem. It's never been a problem for me. But yeah, so I am not an expert on this matter. Okay, so this is just me thinking aloud right now. But I'm sure there are experts who can coach you through how to recover from overthinking or from negative and harmful and non-helpful thought patterns. I suppose there could be YouTube videos also about that, or maybe articles about that. So I would say you should actually look into those things. Take advice from people who actually are professionals, or people who have successfully solved this problem for themselves. I probably am not the right person to ask this because I've never had this issue. Anyway, all the best to you, sir. Do well, and I hope that you are able to solve this issue. And this is the last question for today, it looks like. Okay. Shivansh says, any reason why India is one of the worst corporate cultures in the world? Look, the culture comes from the leadership. The culture comes from the leadership. In the West, what do we have? In the US, companies are geared for success, for competition, for quick execution. And especially in tech companies, you invest a lot in R&D, you invest a lot in long-term success. Look at the AI companies, etc. Look at how much they are reinvesting into R&D. In India, when a company does well, they give dividends to their shareholders, right? So in India, there's no focus on R&D. There is no focus on creating real long-term value. There is focus in, for example, in the Indian IT sector on arbitrage. The arbitrage is a model that in the US, 1 hour of software work costs, let's say, $100. But in India, I can do the same 1 hour of software work from one person in $20. I can pay my employee a fraction of that, and I will charge the US company $20 per hour, and I'll pay my guy maybe $5 an hour. So I'm making 15 rupees or $15 over here, and I'm charging something else to the Americans, so I can make a lot of money through this, through arbitrage. But you're not creating any real value, just providing a service. So there are all these legacy issues, and there's no culture of excellence. There's over management, too much management. Each company has different issues, but overall in India, the focus has always been on all these models, arbitrage and all that. There's no culture of excellence, unfortunately, and much of this goes back to the education system. In the Indian education system, a good student is one who is obedient and who is like a parrot, who can parrot everything the teacher tells them. And once again, there is no merit and so much more. So all of that percolates down into the corporate culture also. And when the corporate leadership tolerates toxic bosses, toxic managers and all, then the whole culture permeates the company. There's too much reliance on HR. I would say all the non-performing, non-working staff should be cut down to the smallest possible number. But that's how it is. That's the kind of culture you have in India. In startups, I think the culture is better, because startups ideally have to sink or swim. Of course, when startups become unicorns without actually breaking a profit, that's again going to be an issue. So India is going through the growing pains, and hopefully things improve. Yeah. Okay. All the best. VSVS again has gifted 5 more memberships. Thank you so much, sir. You are on a spree today and also yesterday. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And Arnav says, I'm about to give my JEE exam. Which college I should prefer to actually learn great engineering like IIT and BITS? Please suggest good branch. I don't know anything. I have no idea which are the good IITs. I don't know which are the good colleges. I am not in touch with the details and intricacies of the Indian education system. I maybe, perhaps you could classify me as an educator, educationist, whatever, but I operate outside the Indian education system. I have no idea which college is good. In the past, certain IITs used to be good. I have no idea how they are today. I don't hear very good things about them. So I am not the right person to ask this. I don't know. Which branch? I don't even know what branches are offered today. So I don't know. I'm very sorry, but I am not the right person to ask these questions. You'll have to ask somebody else. So sorry. All the best, sir. Do well. Crack your GE and find the best possible college or IIT to go into, and do well in life, sir. All the best, Arnav. And that brings me to the end of today's live stream. It's been almost close to 4 hours. Okay. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate all of you, all your questions. It's incredible the kind of questions I get week after week. Very interesting new questions as well. So thank you so much, everybody. And I look forward to taking more questions from you in next week's live streams. Until then, take care. Keep learning, keep asking questions, keep raising your standards. And I will see you very soon in the next live streams. Take care, everyone. Over and out for today. See you next week. Bye.